Ladies and gents, boys and girls, happy Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. It is Hump Day here in the great state of South Carolina. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We got a jam-packed show lined up for you. I see Brendan M., GA, Xavier, Mantis, Travi. Hope you guys are doing well. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel. Be sure that your questions are answered there. Again, guys, appreciate you all. It is Furman week as we now move on from the North Carolina game, talking everything happening this weekend with the Furman Paladins, the home opener for South Carolina as the Gamecocks take on FCS Furman. A 7:30 kickoff under the lights. SEC Network Plus is where you can find the game, guys. You can also watch the game with us in the Big Cock Club Discord, patreon.com/Big Cock Club, or click the link in bio to join the Big Cock Club today. We stream all the games and even more college football in there during every college football weekend. You can hang out with yours truly. We'll talk ball. We'll conversate, have a really good time. Again, guys, that is the Big Cock Club Discord. Also, let me remind you, really excited, guys, we're going to have merchandise on hand for sale outside of Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday. As soon as I get the official location, exactly where my guy is going to be, I will let you all know where that is. But we'll have, I know for a fact, Beamer Ball t-shirts, Beamer Rattler hats, Beamer Ball hats, Clem Sucks hats as well. We will not have Beamer Ball towels for this run. That is the only thing I'm kind of sad about, but Mississippi State starting that game and the rest of the season, we will have towels on hand as well. So again, guys, really exciting times. Also, do not forget on Saturday night, we've got the post-game call-in show following South Carolina's game against the Furman Paladins. It'll be set up just like this. We'll take your questions, comments, calls at 843-790-3377. Like I mentioned, guys, got a jam-packed show today. A lot to get into. Of course, in our third hour, we got our Q&A power hour, taking your questions, comments, calls at 843-790-3377. Guys, if you cannot call in the third hour and you have some thoughts, you have some things you want to say, you have some points you want to make, you can call us right now, leave a voicemail, and we will play that at the start of our third hour. Also, guys, in our second hour, we got JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur. Really excited to talk with JC. Obviously, this week we flipped our guests from JC Shurburtt and Chris Marler. Chris Marler going yesterday, JC going today. Normally they are Tuesday, Wednesday, flip-flop, if you will. Either way, really excited to talk with JC, get his full thoughts on everything that happened against North Carolina and look ahead to Furman and see, can it be fixed? Can South Carolina bounce back? And what he's expecting from this weekend's game against the Paladins. And of course, guys, we got a jam-packed hour number one. Again, guys, let me say thank you all so much for the continued love and support. You guys interacting with not just the podcast, but social media, the merchandise side of the business. But, you know, it's always really fun because the great thing with TSUS and our business, the engagement stays really good year round, but there's nothing like football season, right? Where it's like every little thing you tweet, every little thing you post, does really well in regards to numbers. I don't want to say viral because to some people 100 views is viral, right? So whatever your meaning of that word is, either way, the engagements and everything, our numbers do really, really, really well during the football season. But again, it makes me even more grateful to you all because I really look at it the rest of the year, January through August or January through July. I think that's where you lay the foundation and you build your audience and you build up that goodwill with people and you spread the brand because football season, it's easy, right, to have people view your stuff and follow. But because of you guys showing love, support all year round, I think it really sets us up to have big-time football season. So, again, thank you all so much for that continued love and support. Like I mentioned, guys, got a jam-packed show, and Wednesdays are typically going to be when we start to turn our focus forward instead of looking back on the weekend that was, the game that was. Wednesdays, we turn our attention toward the upcoming game. But with that being said, I wanted to start this show off on a little bit of a different note today because, I've noticed a trend this week, and I'm someone that, I kind of like to pick and prod and make fun. Beamer loves to come out and the whole doom and gloom thing and to find some joy stuff, what have you. But if you look across social media, even just this morning, I got a text from a good friend of mine. And the text literally said this: dude, I don't know about Saturday. Everyone is shitting a brick talking about it. Excuse my French. Be honest with me. Are we about to start 0-2? And I was like, you know what? I think this fan base needs somewhat of a pick-me-up. Because while I am someone, I believe in being critical. I believe in holding folks accountable. I believe in, giving my unfiltered, honest opinion. That's how I built my business, and that's how I'll continue to operate. So when looking at week 1 against North Carolina, there was no way to sugarcoat that performance in Charlotte. There was no way. I mean, it's really, really hard to leave that game and, spend Monday and Tuesday and operate throughout the week acting like nothing went wrong, right? At the same time, though, I am not going to sit here and be someone that insinuates that just because South Carolina lost one game, granted, it was embarrassing. The way that it happened was downright embarrassing. But I'm not going to sit here and act like just because the Gamecocks lost one game that the season is over. And today I wanted to spend a moment, 5 reasons why I think the Gamecocks can still have a successful 2023 season. Now, whether you think success is 7-5, you think it's 8-4, you think it's 9-3, you guys can have that debate amongst yourselves. But the bottom line is I just want to echo some things of why I still believe South Carolina can have a good year. Because we've seen this before, right? After the Missouri game last year, after Arkansas, even after game 2, and Georgia in week 3, there were people with the same attitude and the same mentality. Certainly after Missouri last year, we all thought South Carolina was destined for a 5 or 6 win season. Heck, after the Florida game, nobody, including yours truly, gave South Carolina a chance, a snowball's chance in hell to beat Tennessee or beat Clemson, and sure enough, it happened. So, 5 reasons I see why I think the Gamecocks can still have a successful 2023 season. I'll start, guys, Spencer Rattler. And I think the very obvious progression that he has made and the improvements that he has made. Now, let me say this. I don't think Spencer Rattler is going to be some 30 touchdown pass, 4 interception quarterback. Like, I'm not telling you that there aren't going to be times where you want to pull your hair out watching Spencer Rattler. But I think it was an encouraging sign against North Carolina that the floor has been raised where he's not going to make those back-breaking mistakes and some of those mistakes we saw him make last year and really throughout his college career. And here's the thing, guys. When you have a quarterback like Spencer Rattler, despite any other deficiency you may have, whether it be offensive line, it be receiver, be running backs, it be even defense, whatever it might be. I told you guys this last year, and I'm going to echo this. Spencer Rattler provides the Steve Spurrier effect, where when Steve Spurrier was the head coach at South Carolina, you felt like the Gamecocks had a chance every time they took the field, no matter what the spread was, no matter who the opponent was, because South Carolina had that guy on their sideline, and that guy gives you a shot. The same can be said about Spencer Rattler, guys. The exact same can be said. Can he lose you a ball game? He absolutely can. He's more than capable of doing so. But at the same time, he can also win you a ball game. And when you've got a quarterback like Spencer Rattler, I think you can expect once or twice a season for them to, I don't want to say find lightning in a bottle, but just have one of those days. You know what I mean? Have one of those days, a.k.a. Spencer Rattler against Tennessee, a.k.a. Spencer Rattler against Clemson. Like, if he's able to tap into, and I think, again, week 1 was a really good sign of that. If he's able to tap into that, South Carolina has a chance to beat nearly anyone on their schedule. Despite what we saw in week 1, despite the deficiency that is the offensive line, Spencer Rattler is still this team's quarterback. And that, my friends, and that alone gives you a chance to have a successful year. How can you also not be encouraged by Xavier Legette and his emergence at wide receiver 2? You know, guys, this is a dude that I don't think I really doubted Xavier Legette's talent or skill level in the preseason, anything like that. But I just wanted to see it come to fruition, right? We've been hyping this guy up for years. I was like, okay, before I crown him, before I say he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, let's see it happen on the field. And all Xavier Legette did in week 1, do you guys realize he had 178 receiving yards against UNC? This man had 167 receiving yards all of last season. Like, do you realize how crazy that number is? How crazy that statistic from week 1 is? I think the emergence of Xavier Legette complimenting Juice Wells, and we hope and keep our fingers crossed that, you know, whatever he's been dealing with is behind him, and whether he plays against Furman or he sits, that he's going to be good to go and the best version of himself starting with the Georgia game. But now you've got that second punch on the outside. Like, now you have that other guy, that wide receiver 2 in Xavier Legette. That's not just going to make Juice Wells better. That's going to make the rest of the offense better. That's going to take even more pressure off guys like Trey Knox and Joshua Simon and Amarian Brown and some others as well. Excuse me. It's going to take that pressure off of those other guys as well. Xavier Legette's emergence at wide receiver 2 and him stepping up as a big-time playmaker in this offense, if South Carolina can get even any semblance of blocking, guys, they've got the weapons. Spencer Rattler has the weapons at his disposal. Guys, another reason why I think the Gamecocks can turn this thing around, still have a successful season. We move to the defensive side. The return of Jatius Gear and Nick Eamon-Warry from injury. Here's the good news. And it's unfortunate you lose Mo Kaba for the year. It's a terrible thing, and you really feel for that kid. But Jatius Gear and Nick Eamon-Warry, they're not out for the year. They're going to come back. And I mentioned to you guys that I thought one of the biggest losses going into UNC, or, you know, the injury I maybe was worried about the most was Jatius Gear, because you saw it in that game. South Carolina struggled to get pressure off the edge. The good news is Gear's going to come back. At least we hope. He's dealing with that ankle injury. You can never tell. But based off what I've heard, Gear is going to come back at some point. So I think that's going to help boost the edge position, the pass rush, and the defensive front. Also, of course, Nick Eamon-Warry, frustrating losing him in that UNC game. And obviously, he was visibly frustrated on the sideline. I don't think he plays this weekend against Furman based off what Shane Beamer said yesterday in his presser. But he will return. He is going to come back, right? So you're going to get 2 of your best defensive players back from injury. The good news is they're not out for the year. You lose Mo Kaba, which again is a terrible injury. But these 2 guys who I think are really, really important pieces, they should return. That spells really good things for South Carolina's defense when they do make their returns for the Gamecocks. Guys, sticking with defense, something else you have at your disposal, one of the best secondaries in the SEC. I mean, that secondary single-handedly kept you in that football game. Bottom line, that secondary kept you in that football game against UNC late. When you look at those 2 interceptions they got off Drake May, and I thought South Carolina, you know, did UNC go conservative? I think they did, but I still think the secondary is your calling card. I really do. And I think there's going to be games where they are going to make enough plays to give you a shot to win. I think it's still one of the best groups in the conference. I don't think you heard Marcellus Dial's name a lot, and that was on purpose because he played well. He locked down his side of the field. Are there things to clean up? Absolutely. The good news is I don't know that you're going to face many passing offenses much better than what Drake May and UNC provide. That being said, you get Nick Eamon-Warry back in the back end of your defense. You still have DQ Smith, who I thought looked really good against UNC. Again, I think Dial and Fortune are still really solid. You need to get David Spalding back. That, and you need Keenan Nelson Jr. to improve upon his week 1 performance. But I trust Torian Gray. I trust this defensive coaching staff, and I specifically trust Torian Gray. This secondary, guys, it's still one of the better units in the SEC. I still think the back end of your defense is solid, and I still think it's going to be a unit that gives you a chance in every single ball game you're in. Finally, guys, my 5th and final reason why I think the Gamecocks can still have a successful 2023 season, simply put, Shane Beamer. As frustrating as it is, and it is frustrating, we know this to be true at this point. It's no longer just something, oh, that's kind of an interesting type of thing that happens. This is a trend at this point. South Carolina starts slow under Shane Beamer. Why is that the case? I'm not exactly sure. Is it acceptable? No, it is not. But the fact of the matter is, every single time anyone pronounces Shane Beamer and his football team dead in the water, every time their backs are against the wall, they tend to respond. They tend to find a way to play their best football, or at least play much better football. Now, what does that really mean against Furman? Not a whole lot, right? I think Carolina could win 100-0, and fans would still have that bitter taste of the UNC game in their mouths, and I don't blame you. I really don't, because I'll probably feel the same way. I'm not telling you that things are going to improve overnight. I'm not telling you South Carolina is going to go to Athens and right the ship necessarily. We all knew the front half of this schedule was a gauntlet. But I've just seen it too many times with Shane Beamer and with South Carolina. I was asked last night, Chris, are you changing your predictions? You picked 7-5 in the preseason. Are you changing? Is South Carolina a 5-win team? Do they maybe get to 6? But are you budging off your thoughts of South Carolina? And my answer is no. You know, I thought the Gamecocks guys would split one of the two of North Carolina and Mississippi State. I did not think they would lose both. And we still have a couple of weeks until that game against the Bulldogs. South Carolina loses to Mississippi State, then we can start having different conversations. Because I think all of a sudden that unfortunately brings some not so pleasant possibilities to reality. But we've seen it before, guys. We've seen this song and dance. Now, it's not a great position to put yourself in, to put your backs against the wall. But there was 11 more games on this schedule. And if there's one thing we know is true under a Shane Beamer coach team, they will get better from week 1 to week 13. Now, how much better does this team get? We shall see. But if you can just weather the storm in the first 6 games, if you can just go 3-3, we talked about this all summer, but if you can just go 3-3, it's still doable. It's still doable, might I add. If you can just go 3-3. The second half of your schedule, especially with 4 straight home games to close it out, it sets up well for you. Well, I'm not trying to tell you that what happened in Charlotte was okay. It was an embarrassment, guys. It was embarrassing for all those that wear the garnet and black. And it's so funny. I saw somebody on social media say, do you just try, I had some take about the Furman game being a close game. Do you just try to make South Carolina look bad? And I say this with love, South Carolina makes themselves look bad more than I ever could. So the answer is no. I just call it as I see it. But with that being said, again, I'm not selling my stock on Shane Beamer. I'm not selling my stock after one game on what this football team can be. There are real issues on this football team. There are real problems. There are real things that I think Shane Beamer and his coaching staff, they have to look themselves in a mirror and they've got to learn from, because this is the roster they assembled. This is the roster they put together. This is the roster they went out in the portal, and this is the best they could come up with at a couple of key positions. With that being said, we've seen it before. The resurgence in the second half of the year. We've seen it. So if you can just weather the storm early, Shane Beamer has shown his resiliency, his toughness. His football teams, they exemplify that. They take on the mentality of their football coach, which is being a fighter, which is being resilient, which is playing with an edge. And I fully expect South Carolina to do that. If you're counting out Shane Beamer and company after one game, you're making a mistake. I still trust Shane Beamer. I trust Shane Beamer to figure some things out. It may not be pretty early because I think there are real issues. There are real problems. But if there's anyone out there who I believe can turn this thing around, can figure some things out, if he's got to put it together with Scotch tape, whatever it is, and do the unthinkable and win some big games in this season and still get this football team to a point of having a successful season, it's Shane Beamer. And if you don't believe that, how quickly you've forgotten the Tennessee and the Clemson wins following the Florida game a season ago. Trust in Shane Beamer, Beamer ball to the moon. That is my mentality and mindset until there is reason for it to not be so. Guys, that being said, let's jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Wednesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars. And there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Macho Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Of course, guys, South Carolina's offensive and defensive coordinators, I believe Pete Limbo as well. All three are speaking today to the media. So if you guys want to go check that out, you're more than welcome. And in the meantime, guys, we're going to keep the conversation rolling. Like I mentioned, we're moving things forward. Gamecocks are taking on the Furman Paladins this weekend at Williams-Brice Stadium, a 7:30 kickoff on SEC Network Plus. Always exciting when you've got the home opener. Should be a packed house at Willie B. That being said, guys, every single Wednesday we rock our position unit comparison, where we talk about each of the position units that'll take the field. Who has the advantage at each position unit when the Gamecocks and Paladins do battle on Saturday night? We start at the quarterback position. And you look at the Furman side, I'll tell you guys, I really like their quarterback. Tyler Huff is a damn good one. Obviously, a returning starter, had 2,200 passing yards a season ago, 15 touchdowns through the air. Also uses his legs, 694 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. In their first game, which, by the way, Furman is 1-0. They beat Tennessee Tech by a final score of 45-10. Tyler Huff went 15 of 27 for 172. No touchdowns, did throw an interception. With that being said, I'm going with Spencer Rattler in South Carolina. I mean, listen, it's Spencer Rattler's on a different level. He's one of the best quarterbacks at the FBS level, not just in the SEC, not just in the state of South Carolina. And while I respect Tyler Huff's game, again, I think he's a really good dual threat quarterback. This is a guy, I believe, that came over from Presbyterian, if my memory does serve me correctly. Either way, Tyler Huff, a really good player for them. I'm rolling with Spencer Rattler, though, especially after what we saw in that first week, guys. I talked in the last segment, his progression, and I think his maturity, and I think Spencer Rattler under Dowell Loggins is definitely primed to play his best football in his collegiate career this season. So when it comes to the quarterback position, give me the Gamecocks. As we move to running back, DeCarrion Joyner, Juju McDowell, Mario Anderson, Dontavius Braswell. Where are the answers at running back for South Carolina? Is it as simple to say, DeCarrion Joyner, of course, got the bulk of the carries in that game against UNC. Is it safe to say that he is South Carolina's RB1 throughout this season? Do we see the Gamecocks try some different bodies back there? I mean, obviously, again, we didn't see Braswell in the season opener. We didn't see Mario Anderson, the standout at D2, in the season opener. We saw a little bit of Juju McDowell here and there. And, of course, DeCarrion Joyner getting the bulk of the carries, as I mentioned. So I think, guys, leaving UNC, there are still major, major question marks when it comes to the running game. And that's not all DeCarrion Joyner's fault, right? It's not Juju's fault. The offensive line, which we'll talk about in a second, was a major issue. You then look at Furman, guys. They have no problems and no question marks when it comes to their running back position, because Dominic Roberto returns as a preseason all-conference player. He is the leader in their running game, ran for 1,120 yards a season ago and 11 touchdowns. This is a real dude in the backfield for Furman. In their season opener against Tennessee Tech, he ran 18 times for 59 yards, so just 3.3 yards per carry, but he did have 2 touchdowns in that game. Guys, when it comes to the running back position, I'm giving Furman the nod here. I just think you cannot look at this right now and say that even this is a push or South Carolina has some sort of advantage when, guys, we don't even know, who the true RB1 is still. Sure, it's Dakereon Joyner, but we're talking about on the Furman side. I don't care what level it is. A preseason all-conference guy, was an all-conference guy last year, 1,000-yard rusher, double-digit touchdown guy, because there are more answers than question marks, and their answer is someone as prolific as Dominic Roberto. I give the advantage at the running back position to the Furman Paladins. You look at the wide receiver position, and Furman's got some damn good ones, man. Their top 3 pass catchers came back this year in Joshua Harris, Kendall Dean, and Wayne Anderson. So, their quarterback, Tyler Huff, he's got some weapons. You look at the first game, Kendall Dean had 5 catches for 56 yards. I just mentioned Joshua Harris. He had 1 catch for 9 yards in that ball game. And then Wayne Anderson, I don't think, had a catch in that game. Ben Ferguson for them had 2 catches for 56 yards. I believe he is a wide receiver. Okay, sophomore wide receiver out of Texas. 2 catches for 56 yards in that game. So they've got some capable weapons on the outside, no doubt, and a lot of returning experience. That's the big thing with Furman. You're going to hear a lot about guys as we talk about them going in the game Saturday. They had 18 starters come back and 38 of 44 players back from their 2 deep a season ago. With that being said, I look at South Carolina's top-end talent. Juice Wells, who was expected to play against Furman. Xavier Legette and his emergence. I know Amarian Brown had the bad drop against UNC, but I still think he's a capable player in this offense. You then go down the list. I guess we got to include Luke Doty, right? I guess we got to include Luke Doty. Peyton Mangrum as well, who made some plays for you. Hopefully Nick Harbor at some point, maybe in this game. The top-end talent, though, that 1-2 duo of Xavier Legette and Juice Wells, that's really what gives the nod to South Carolina for me. I do give the edge to the Gamecocks when it comes to the wide receiver position entering this game on Saturday night. We move to the tight end position. And the tight ends were a talking point last week, weren't they? South Carolina fans were so upset when I said that UNC had the advantage at tight end, and people were just losing their minds. And then you look in that game Saturday, guys, I mean, UNC's tight ends just completely dwarfed the production of what Trey Knox and Joshua Simon and those guys gave you in that ball game. This is where the big loss, though, hits the Furman Paladins. They lost their top tight end, Ryan Miller, to the NFL, was an NFL type of guy, so they are recovering from that, guys. Trey Knox, Joshua Simon, while they were not featured in that game last week against UNC, and again, there were reasons for that because of the offensive line and just the way that the offense sputtered in that ball game. I don't think that'll be the case this week. I think you're going to see those guys shine. I think you're going to see them featured much more than they were last week. And again, guys, it just comes back to overall top-end talent. I think the Gamecocks have the advantage at the tight end position. I'm not exactly sure, again, what Furman has there because, again, I look back. Let's see. Is it Baylor Hughes, 1 catch for 18 yards? He's a wide receiver as well. So I don't know where the answers come from when it comes to the Paladins tight end room. Who replaces Ryan Miller? That was a big question for them coming into this season. I'll take Trey Knox, Joshua Simon, and the rest of that Gamecocks tight end room over the Paladins. We move to the offensive line. Let's start with Furman. Let's start on a positive note, right? 3 of 5 returned for the Paladins this season, led by All-American candidate Pearson Toomey. And you look at the rushing attack, what they did a season ago, again, paving the way for Roberto, 1,120 yards, 11 touchdowns, as I mentioned earlier, and giving Tyler Huff time as well to operate, to run the football. You look at what they did against Tennessee Tech, 196 yards on the ground, 5 yards per carry. Tyler Huff, by the way, in that ballgame, I should have mentioned, he had 10 carries for 42 yards in that game against Tennessee Tech on the ground. So all in all, a pretty productive evening. And I don't have the sack numbers in front of me, I don't believe. Let's see if I can find that here because I'm just really curious at this point. 45-10 win. No, we don't have that. Okay. A 45-10 win for the Furman Paladins. Let's see. We'll go to the defensive statistics. Okay, we don't have it. Either way, Furman, very productive in their season opener against Tennessee Tech. Does Furman, top to bottom, have a more talented offensive line than South Carolina? I don't want to say yes. It pains me to say yes. But guys, all due respect, how much better is South Carolina's offensive line realistically than Furman's? When you think about the fact that the Gamecocks are playing guys from Charlotte and Western Illinois and Yale and Mercer. And then would a guy like Tyshawn Wanamaker start at Furman? I don't know that he would. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that he would. And out of sheer principle, I can't give the Gamecocks the nod here. I would feel icky saying that, despite what happened, despite 9 sacks, despite 16 tackles for loss, the Gamecocks have got the superior offensive line in this ball game. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Give me Furman's offensive line. I think they have the advantage in this one. And again, guys, if you don't like it, well, South Carolina shouldn't have surrendered 9 sacks. They shouldn't have surrendered, they shouldn't have surrendered 9 sacks and 16 tackles for loss to a defense that was one of the worst in college football last year. Shouldn't have done it. So I give Furman the nod. Again, they've got some big-time dudes up front. They do have size. Is it comparable to South Carolina's? Not necessarily, but, they've paved the way for a 1,000-yard rusher. They've allowed Tyler Huff to operate him. And again, guys, it's one of the best FCS teams in the country, right in the top 10. So they are no pushover. They are no slouch, as Shane Beamer mentioned. And again, for that reason, I give Furman the nod at the offensive line spot. We move to defensive line. And guys, this is probably where I'm going to catch the first bit of backlash, if you will, because I mentioned this after the UNC game, and I stand by it. I'm very worried about South Carolina's defensive front. I'm very worried about it. As individuals, I like Tonka Hemingway. I like Boogie Huntley. I think Jordan Strawn does some nice things. The loss of Jatius Gear is really hurting this group because outside of Jordan Strawn, guys, you have nobody. You have nobody off the edge. Terrell Dawkins is made of glass. Tyreek Johnson, he's been here since the freaking Lou Holtz days and has never done anything. Brian Thomas Jr., guys, I said it earlier in the week. I'll echo it. Spring game standout. I don't think he's an SEC caliber edge player, defensive end, pass rusher, whatever. And I just don't see any areas that South Carolina has really plugged the holes of being one of the worst rush defenses in the SEC last year. I don't see it. I don't see it. You then look at the Furman side of things. This is a group that was 16th in the country against the run last year. Is it FCS? Sure. I don't care, though. Top 20 against the run. And they return Matt Sachovka, Jack Barton, and Luke Clark. 2 of those 3 guys are preseason conference type of dudes. Like, they're not scrubs. They're not just run-of-the-mill guys. Preseason all-conference. That being said, I like South Carolina's athleticism in this ball game. I like the athleticism compared to Furman. But, guys, the best I can do in this matchup, it's a push for me. It's a push. And while you may think that's sad, is that sad? I hope they prove me wrong. But right now, I think this is a 2014-2015 level defensive front. Without Jatius Gear, so if Jatius Gear is not playing, guys, think about it this way. You basically lost Jordan Burch, lost Zach Pickens, and brought in nobody to fill the void. Because Jatius Gear is injured. So he's not filling the void that Jordan Burch left. And then who's filling the void in the interior? Who? Throw a name at me. Because as much as I like Tonka Hemingway and Boogie Huntley, those guys were both part of a defensive front that was terrible last year. TJ Sanders, Nick Barrett, what have they ever done? Elijah Davis, was he on the field against North Carolina? And this wasn't some great UNC O-line they were facing. Couldn't muster 1 sack, and UNC didn't much struggle to run the ball either. The best I can give you is a push in this one. I like Furman's defensive front. They've got some capable bodies again, preseason all conference. They've stopped the run at a high level. Granted, hey, it's at their level. I get it. Doesn't change the fact that they've done so. A push for me on the defensive front. We move to the linebacker position. And South Carolina suffered a major loss yesterday when Mo Kaba, for the second consecutive year in the first game or two, suffers a season-ending injury. What does it mean for this group? Is Debo Williams ready to be the leader of this unit? Because last year when Mo Kaba got hurt, well, you had Sherrod Green. You had Brad Johnson. You had guys who had been there for quite a while, played a lot of football for you. You don't have that luxury this year. Debo Williams is going to have to step up and play an even greater role. Stone Blanton, he's going to have to start playing his best football. He was good at times, not so great at times against North Carolina. Grayson Pup Howard, hey, welcome to the show, my friend. You got to play. I mean, it's time to go. Jerron Willis, where was he against UNC? It's time to go. Bam Martin Scott, they need to get him back from injury immediately. You look at Furman's linebackers. Braden Gilby, Bryce McCormick, those guys are back at linebacker for them. I struggled with this one, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I went back and forth on this. I had a rough draft set with Furman having the advantage here. I looked at it again. I like South Carolina's athleticism at linebacker, and I still do think there's upside with this group. For that upside to be met, Grayson Pup Howard needs to play and needs to make an impact. Stone Blanton needs to play his best football. Debo Williams, I liked what I saw from him in the UNC game. I like Furman's linebackers a lot, but I'm going to give the edge to South Carolina here because I still like the upside of this room. So give me the Gamecocks when it comes to linebackers on Saturday night against Furman. We move to defensive back, and this one, guys, is probably the easiest of all of these. Now, Furman's got a really good all-SoCon defensive back in Travis Blackshear. He returns. He actually had an interception in their first game against Tennessee Tech. Hugh Ryan and Cam Brinson, two solid players for them, man, the safety spots. But guys, Furman, they were 115th against the pass a season ago. They struggled to stop the pass. And they feel good about some transfer portal guys they picked up. But Nicky Manwari or no Nicky Manwari, South Carolina still has a very high-quality defensive back group. Marcellus Dial, Fortune on the corners, whether it be David Spalding or Keenan Nelson Jr., a guy in Keenan Nelson Jr., who I still have high hopes for. I think he can learn from what happened in that UNC game. And I'll say this too. To be fair to Keenan Nelson Jr., when you can't get a pass rush on Drake May, I mean, what we saw is going to happen, right? So, yes, Keenan Nelson Jr. got burned, but I mean, my goodness, guys, you can't pressure Drake May. It's going to make life really tough on your DBs. And then you still have DQ Smith in the back end. So, I'm giving the nod to South Carolina. This is still one of the best defensive back rooms in the SEC. Furman really struggled to stop the pass last year. Gamecocks with the easy nod at DB. We move to kicker and punter. And I'll mention this, too, when it comes to special teams. So this is not part of this equation, but did you realize Furman last year, guys, they led the FCS in blocked kicks. Led the FCS in blocked kicks with 10, which is a crazy number. We talk about Beamer ball. I mean, that was next level from them. Guys, Kai Kroger, Mitch Jeter, obviously two of the best in college football. You look at what Furman has. Ian Williams went 1 for 2 last week, hit a 32-yard field goal, also kicked both of their extra points. Actually, he was 2 for 2 on extra points. Axel Leprevu, I don't know how to say his last name. Leprevu, I have no idea. Went 4 for 4 on extra points. And then Ryan Levy had 4 punts for 205 yards for Furman, had a 52-yarder, so pretty good. That being said, you got to give the nod here to the Gamecocks. I mean, again, Mitch Jeter, Kai Kroger. I told you guys last week, there's not going to be many teams, if any, that beat South Carolina in the kicker and punter category, which brings us to coaching. Who's got the edge when it comes to coaching? And give Furman a lot of credit. They've got one hell of a coaching staff. Clay Hendricks, their leader, he's done a fantastic job with that Furman football program. You then look at the rest of the staff, guys. Justin Roper is their offensive coordinator and their quarterbacks coach. I had to look and I say, is he related to Kurt Roper? They actually hired him in January of 2022. He's done really good work for them. Last year, they averaged 33.3 points per game, 421.9 points per game. Before Furman, he was at Holy Cross. Looks like he spent time at Northern Iowa as the quarterbacks coach. He coached quarterbacks at Valdosta State. And get this, Justin Roper's collegiate experience, he played at the University of Oregon from 2007 to 2008, even threw 4 touchdowns in the Sun Bowl in 2007 against South Florida. So their defensive coordinator is Dwayne Vaughn, and their special teams coordinator is Tommy Spangler. That being said, guys, I give the nod to the Gamecocks. I give the nod to Shane Beamer, Dabble Loggins, Clayton White, and Pete Limbo. It's going to take me seeing more from Shane Beamer and this staff to say after one game, Furman's got a better coaching staff than they do, right? It's going to take more than that from me. So, with that being said, running back down this list, our position unit comparison. At the quarterback position, I got the Gamecocks. At running back, I've got Furman. Wide receiver, I've got the Gamecocks. Tight end, I've got the Gamecocks. Offensive line, I've got Furman. Defensive line, I've got a push. Linebacker, I've got the Gamecocks. Defensive back, I've got the Gamecocks. Kicker and punter, I've got the Gamecocks. And coaching, I've got the Gamecocks as well as South Carolina and Furman prepare to do battle Saturday night under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium. Guys, that being said, let's jump into another quick break on the other side. I'm going to give you my keys to victory for South Carolina as they do battle with FCS Furman. Guys, all that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Do not forget, continue to leave us your questions, your comments. You can also call in and leave us a voicemail as our Q&A Power Hour is upcoming in the third hour of the show. And, of course, guys, joining us in about 20 minutes or so, JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur. Really excited to talk to JC, everything that happened over the weekend in Charlotte, as well as look ahead to this weekend's game against the Furman Paladins. With that being said, we keep the conversation rolling. What must South Carolina do to secure victory against Furman? And not just the FCS Furman Paladins, but the nationally ranked 6th in the country FCS Furman Paladins. This is not your normal quote-unquote cupcake type of ball game. Furman will come in, guys, expecting to win. Do not get it twisted. They went up to Clemson last year and gave the Tigers all they wanted in that ball game, outgaining Dabo Swinney's team. Now, what will South Carolina do? And better yet, what must they do to secure victory in this one, guys? I'll start my first key of the game. Start fast, stay fast. We've been talking about slow starts for South Carolina football and slow starts the season. And we've seen it before, too, slow starts in games, right? I really feel like that first series last week, when you come out and you run the trick play on the first play of the game and you go 3 and out, that set the tone. I mean, that just set the tone for the entire game. This football team, this fan base, this program desperately needs a fast start on Saturday night. The UNC game was abysmal. It was embarrassing. It was hard to watch. And that nasty taste still lingers in our mouths days later. We've all heard that expression, don't let that team beat you twice, right? And what that means is you come into a Furman game or you come into a game like this, the next game, whatever it may be, feeling sorry for yourself and, thinking, oh, okay, well, now we got the rebound and we can just kind of show up and we don't have to take this game seriously, compared to the hype and hoopla of UNC. This one doesn't have there's no college game day. There's no national TV audience, what have you. We're not playing the NFL stadium. This football team desperately needs something to feel good about early. Scoring on the first drive, hey, taking some deep shots, taking advantage, like we mentioned, a really lackluster Furman secondary, at least from a season ago, finishing outside of the top 100 in passing defense. Momentum's a fickle mistress, and you want to make sure you're on the right side of it, because the only way that Furman, and I can't even believe I'm talking about this, but the only way that this game is close, or, don't let this turn into a second half game. That's all I'm saying. Don't let this be a fourth quarter game. If you start fast, I don't think you allow that to happen. If you start fast, you go up 7-0, you go up 14-0, you punch Furman in the mouth, they're not going to have the horses to keep up. But the longer you let Furman hang around, the more likely you're going to have to sweat this thing out in the fourth quarter, because all of a sudden you look up, it's a 7-point ball game late in the third. Hey, Furman doesn't know they're not supposed to win. Avoid that by starting fast, staying fast, playing aggressive, executing your game plan, but being aggressive in doing so. And do not allow Furman to think for even a second they're going to come in and take advantage of a beaten down Gamecocks team that's licking their wounds from a disappointing week one. My second key to the game, guys, this one is a no-brainer. Simply put, low man wins. Low man wins. Run the ball, stop the run. Win the battle in the trenches. Take it personally. Be nasty. Be physical. Because even if you're an FCS level scrub, as I called you, guess what? We're playing an FCS level team. If that offensive line can't take it personally after that performance in week one, and they can't pave the way for a 150-yard rusher, 150-yard rushing performance, if they can't pave the way for Spencer Rattler, keeping him upright and allowing him in this offense to operate the way it's supposed to, we might be having a different conversation next week. In games like this, guys, typically, and this is why I was not a big fan of South Carolina adding offensive linemen from Mercer and Charlotte and Western Illinois and even Yale. Call it for what it is. The biggest difference in FBS and FCS, or like as you go down level, you know what the biggest difference is? It's line of scrimmage. It's the trenches. That's the biggest difference, because there's athletes everywhere, as we've seen. Heck, we've seen it from Wingate. We've seen it from James Madison. We've seen it all over the field, guys. East Tennessee State. I mean, there's athletes at every level, right? I mean, if you're fast and you're big and you can catch the football, you can do that at any level, right? Within reason. The line of scrimmage is the biggest difference. We need to see South Carolina's offensive and defensive lines win their battles. Shane Beamer talked about one-on-one matchups. We've got to see South Carolina win more of those. Bottom line. Low man wins. Be the more physical team. Take it personally and win at the point of attack. If South Carolina can win at the point of attack, they've got all the athletes to out-talent Furman. And the only way that this game is uncomfortable in the second half, that it's close in the fourth quarter, the only way that happens is if South Carolina gets manhandled up front again. Because if that happens, well, all bets are off. Who knows? Spencer Rattler's under pressure again. Maybe he makes an ill-advised throw. Running game can't get going. He's got to put all the entire ball game on his shoulders. Defensive front, same thing. Dominic Roberto's a really good player. Their offensive line's solid. Tyler Huff is a good quarterback. That Furman offense will make you pay. Guys in the trenches got to take it personally this week, man. Low man wins. That low man better be South Carolina. And finally, guys, my final key to victory is Beamer ball, special teams. We talked about Furman, 10 blocked kicks last year, guys. South Carolina is not the only team that can play special teams. Furman was incredible at it a season ago, and you can bet that Furman is going to make that a focus in this ballgame. You know how you pull an upset against a team you're not supposed to beat? You make big plays on defense. You make big plays in special teams. If Furman's able to somehow, some way, block a kick, block a punt, make a big play in that facet, all of a sudden, things could get sideways. Now, that being said, South Carolina still has Kai Kroger. They still have Mitch Jeter. They still have Pete Limbo. And they still have Shane Beamer. Beamer ball is still alive and well. And I think South Carolina should be able to take advantage. But that is an important facet in this ball game, specifically because of what Furman did a season ago. They were one of the best in the country. I mean, 10 blocked kicks, guys. That's hard to fathom. That's really, truly, genuinely hard to fathom. And South Carolina better be on point in their special teams department on Saturday night. So again, guys, my 3 keys to victory against the Furman Paladins. Start fast, stay fast. Low man wins. And finally, Beamer ball. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into another quick break on the other side. We'll get our good friend JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur on the airwaves. Really excited, again, to talk to JC, hear all his thoughts on the UNC game and looking ahead to Furman as well. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Apologize. Just had a snack over the break here. I want to say again, thank you guys. The podcast numbers are truly incredible and a blessing to see each and every single day. I told you all, and you all know, we set a record for podcast downloads last month in the month of August. And based off of our start to the month, through 6 days, we are up 31% from this time last month. So we are on pace to break the record yet again. Again, guys, I cannot say thank you enough. It is just awesome. I mean, it's truly remarkable, truly a blessing. Guys, like I mentioned, we are awaiting JC Shurburtt at 1:15. And if you guys want me to ask JC anything specifically, you can leave us some comments. I think JC also reads the comments here every now and then. So if there's anything you want to know from JC, anything specifically, leave us your questions. I'll be more than happy to ask those to JC Shurburtt, but really excited again to get his thoughts and just kind of make sense of what happened over the weekend against North Carolina. Yeah. Let's see. Anyways, of course, Dabble Loggins, Clayton White, Pete Limbo, all speaking to the media today. Doty for the Bolitnikoff. My God. Carson Rivers, do we have an update about Nick Imawari? Yes, Carson. Shane Beamer yesterday said that Nick Imawari was doubtful. So I would assume that means he's out. I would assume it means he's out. He apparently, Beamer said that, Nick Imawari told me that he's, if you ask him, he's playing on Saturday. I highly doubt he plays. I'd be shocked if he plays. I'd be really surprised. Really, really, really surprised. So I think Nick Imawari is probably out for the game, but you never know. We shall see. Bo Shupp says, my key to the Furman game, running the ball, controlling the line of scrimmage, controlling the clock. We have to use our size and strength to our advantage. I would run straight at Furman. I mean, Bo, I will say this to your point. I would say this to your point. Like, you have to face the offensive line issues head on, right? You have to face them head on. You've got to be able to figure some things out against Furman when it comes to your offensive line. So, let's see. It's crazy how the hot dog thing has just been ran wild with, truly, from Saturday. It's crazy, dude. That has, you never want to go viral to a point where Barstool Sports is writing an article trashing you. I can tell you that much. You never want to do that. That's never a positive. Not sure that really brings the light to your program that you'd like it to. But I don't know, man. I think hopefully it's another learning experience from Shane Beamer or for Shane Beamer that everything you say can and will be used against you. Like, I don't think Shane Beamer in these post-game pressers, when he has these types of clips or what have you, like, I don't think he has malicious intent or, anything like that. I just think he's an extremely emotional dude. And I think sometimes, when things are going poorly and there's adversity and when there's chatter on social media, because Shane Beamer consumes it more than anybody, I think he lets that get the best of him. I do. I think he lets that get the best of him. Absolutely. So I think learning not to be so reactionary, controlling what you can control, I think that would benefit Shane Beamer greatly, because there was just no need to bring up the freaking chain gang eating hot dogs when it's like, bro, you are a head coach making like $6 million a year. The chain gang, what are they making for that game? $75, $100? Like, really? It comes off as real sour grapes when you're doing that. So, anyways, guys, like I mentioned, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much as we prepare Gamecocks taking on the Furman Paladins this weekend at Willie B. How about this, by the way? Bleacher Report just posting this. Caleb Williams' dad says that he can return to Southern Cal if a team drafting first isn't in a, quote, good situation. The power of NIL, ladies and gentlemen. A guy who, no-brainer, first overall pick. But you know what? If you don't want to play for him, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can chill and hang out with NIL and probably make just as good of money, especially when you're a guy like Caleb Williams. You can make just as much as you would anyways with the NFL contract. That being said, guys, hey, let's go ahead and bring him in. Of course, he joins us normally every single Tuesday. Appreciate him being flexible with his schedule. This week, our good friend, JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks. He joins the show. JC, what's going on, my friends? Glad to see you made it back safe in Charlotte, and hope you also enjoyed your Labor Day weekend. What's going on, man?
Absolutely. Got a chance to be in Charlotte, of course, and then drove down to Helen, Georgia, and went tubing down the Chattahoochee to drown my sorrows about the game Saturday night. But no, what a tremendous day, though, other than the game in Charlotte. We had the Carolina Rise tailgate that was smashing success. Thanks to Mark Bryan from Hootie for coming by and playing. Thanks to Nana's Porch. Great food. All my friends that showed up, all the supporters of Carolina Rise, it meant a lot to me. A lot of people, Chris, I ran into in Charlotte actually recognized me for my segment on this show. So I thought that was pretty cool. So shout out to you too, my friend. I appreciate that and the opportunity for coming on. But back and ready to go now. Just a disappointing loss all the way around. And then you start thinking about it. And, Carolina did get dominated on both lines of scrimmage, I thought, for the most part. defensive line played slightly better than the offensive line, but I don't know how much worse. You can't get much worse than 9 sacks and -2 rushing yards for an offensive line. But a little bit better execution in the red zone in the second half. We may be talking about an epic comeback here. I mean, that's the bottom line. South Carolina did have their chances. I think that this team has to get more clutch, Chris. I think that's if you want something overall outside of the obvious block better, play tougher, that kind of thing. You have to get more clutch. You get up 14-10, you're not playing well. You're still up 14-10. I'm thinking you're going to the locker room with a halftime lead, relaxing, breathing a little bit, saying, all right, let's go make some adjustments and get after it. You give up the big, long pass play for a touchdown. Then you do nothing with it. Then you get a beautiful onside kick to start the second half. Hot dogs notwithstanding, maybe a little bit of questioning the play calls. They're trying to run it on that drive. I'd have gone right after their throat. But Amarian Brown, beautiful play call, beautiful setup. He's wide open, drops it. You can't drop that pass. And then all the times in the red zone where you sputtered 3 points 3 times inside the 20, man, it was only a 17-point game. You literally should have scored 3 touchdowns there and won the game 35-31. Who knows if it'd have gone that way, but I really felt like at the end it was a game of missed opportunities and stuff. And whenever you lose, there is a lot to clean up and things get magnified. So we'll see where it goes from here. Personnel, they either need to get some guys a whole lot better or play some other guys. I mean, like I said, up front on the offensive line can't get much worse if you go with freshmen or whatever. So a lot to be done. But, man, Chris, me and you followed this program for a long time. We've seen a lot of bad performances by probably not this bad, but bad performances by offensive lines before the opener. And by the time they play Clemson or whatever at the end of the year, we don't even think about it. So history shows us it can get better. But as critical and tough as September is, it better get better quicker because you can't afford to get in a big hole for this season.
Yeah, JC, sticking with the North Carolina game, and of course, you hit on many great points. We'll stick with the offensive line. And Shane, remember yesterday saying, get your shots in while you can, give them their credit when they improve. Well, right now, the reality is they give up 9 sacks to a North Carolina front that, are they improved? Sure, but I don't care if you're playing Georgia. 9 sacks is just inexcusable. And then you mentioned the rushing yard total and then 16 tackles for loss for the Tar Heels. My question to you, JC, is this. Where do the answers come from? Because admittedly, and we try to stay as positive and optimistic as we can in the offseason and believe that the people pulling the strings behind the scenes know what they're doing. But to be transparent, I had questions about the lack of Power 5 talent picked up in the portal on the offensive line. I just did. And I thought you kind of saw that exposed against UNC. So, my question now to you, though, is where do the answers come from? Is it as simple, like you mentioned, as roll the same 5 out there and just pray to God they get better? Or do we start to see, and I know Marquis Anderson's out right now, but do we start to see Big Tree Babalade and Trovon Bowe and some of these freshmen that maybe they weren't really planning on utilizing step up? Because, you now lose Case and Henry. You already didn't have Jalen Nichols. And it's not like there's just a slew of guys on the bench that have played a bunch of football and played at a high level. You know what I mean? So, I just don't know where the answers come from at this point.
Well, I think the first thing is, and look, where they came from, I think we've seen a lot of players from lower levels come in here and play well. But offensive line, that's one of those things, if it matters at that spot, Chris, because you're used to blocking 240-pound ends and 260-pound tackles at that level. And here comes a 260-pound monster that's a daggum linebacker, in the SEC. And Fugard did not play well, and Jackson Hughes did not play much better. But other people struggled as well. I thought Gargiulo played pretty well, but he's inside. And he's a big, tough guy and all that good stuff. Probably would have gotten drafted out of Yale or at least gone to a camp and made some noise. Vershawn Lee played pretty well, but not super. Ja'Kai Moore struggled early. Here's what I think. I think you got to get Tyshawn Wanamaker back to being your right tackle because he was serviceable last year for almost the whole year at right tackle, right? So he obviously was a lot better than what we saw Saturday night for a string of a lot of games. I think that you got to start working Big Tree Babalade in at left or move Ja'Kai Moore back out there because, again, Ja'Kai has played left tackle probably pretty average at that spot, much better at guard. But, man, he wasn't as bad as we saw Saturday night. There's a reason Case and Henry, despite being, having knee trouble and all that, being hurt most of the offseason, when he got back, almost immediately won that job. And Case is still a guy with a bright future. In my heart, I'm sick for him and Mo Kaba. But since we're talking O-line, I'm sick for Case because he's a guy that could really help. So I think you got to start Big Tree and maybe you look at Marquis out there. But I think Wanamaker's the guy just because he's done it before. And is he ideal? Does he have an ideal build for a tackle? No. Does he have – he's more of a guard? Yes. But he's done it before. I think another thing maybe you look at is move Gargiulo to center and slide Vershawn Lee out. He's played tackle before because it really was the tackles mostly that were egregiously bad. The interior guys didn't get much of a push from time to time. They were not good either, turning guys loose, etc. But the tackles were the ones that, Sidney Fugar, I thought all offseason he wasn't quite ready. And then you hear, well, he's doing some good things. And then he gets up to the depth chart. He's huge. He's got a bright future. People forget this kid's got 3 more years. He's got 2 more years after this. But things like, and we had Pat DeMarco on the show just now breaking down film. He said, on the play, I said, this was a 4th down play or whatever where Spencer got sacked in the red zone or 3rd down where they had to kick the field goal. Fugar dipped his head like this, see how my head's going, and you get your eyes off the guy. That makes it so much easier for the defender just to shake you off and get around you. So, I don't know, man. I think sometimes in football, in college football, your younger players are your more talented ones, and they give you a better chance. So maybe that's what we see.
Mm-hmm. Let's move to more positive things, JC. I thought Spencer Rattler, all things considered, was fairly masterful. The fact that, I was most encouraged, JC, that the yardage numbers are nice. The efficiency is great. But the fact that Spencer Rattler protected the football, he didn't really, I don't recall many scenarios where I felt like he put it in harm's way necessarily. Your thoughts on the way he played? Again, I think that's a good step in regards to, we talked all offseason about him raising his floor. And he certainly is far from the reason the Gamecocks lost that football game. So maybe something he can build on from that UNC game, and obviously, hopefully, carry into Furman and beyond when you get into SEC play.
He did the best he could, given the circumstances, and sometimes it's like that. You basically, you could say that really about 2 guys, Spencer and Xavier on offense, and that's it. Unfortunately, I think everybody else had a very flawed performance, and all of them could do a lot better. Spencer probably, like any quarterback, there's a couple plays here and there that he probably won't back. I think Shane Beamer said one time, he left the pocket too early, and that was one of the sacks. But that's one time. He was 30 for 39 and really accurate, like you said. A guy, did not put the ball in harm's way. And look, man, you're back there running for your life. That's why teams love to blitz and put pressure on quarterbacks, because it makes them make mistakes. They'll throw it right to you. Lesser quarterbacks would have thrown it right to you, not Spencer. And then that was good. I think he's continued. Sometimes we hear things about practice and it doesn't come to fruition in the games a lot, But we heard Spencer was on fire all preseason, and he remained that way. And so I think they're going to need him. I think he needs some help, though, especially in the protection department. Trey Knox is a guy that is a more capable blocker than he showed the other night. If not, you need to play, in those situations where you need to you need to put another tight end in. But, I think that as far as the quarterback situation goes, Spencer played really well, and they're going to need that out of him probably for the rest of this season to turn it around.
JC, I did not have it on my bingo card. Luke Doty hauling in a catch this season before Nicholas Harbor. A lot of folks have questions. Where is Nick Harbor? And again, obviously, we heard about, right, that the transition was real, right? Learning the nuances of the receiver position, what have you. But I mean, when you've got Luke Doty, and all due respect to him, by the way, Peyton Mangrum hauling in catches before a guy like Nick Harbor, fans obviously raise their eyebrow and wonder, where is this prized 5-star guy we picked up? What are you hearing in regards to utilization for him? I think he was on the field a little bit on Saturday night, but fans are asking questions. Just when an offense is somewhat struggling, it's like,
True.
Okay, where is one of our best players, or at least most athletically gifted players?
Well, same situation as Juice. I mean, and Juice got out there, and I talk about being clutch. This team in general is get first drive of the game. It was a cattywampus kind of play because the DB kind of got in front of it. He didn't tip it, but the ball was weird. Juice drops that pass. That's rare for him to drop anything. I think he just kind of got his vision blurred on it. He catches that. I don't care how much his foot hurts. My grandmother in a wheelchair in a race could have probably gotten to at least the 5 yard. There's nothing but green in front of him. He didn't finish the game. Same thing with Nick Harbor. Harbor had a shoulder injury that he suffered, I think, second scrimmage. It was not early in fall camp. It was late. It was not as early as Juice's. Okay. So he's just missed time. He's not 100%. He's still learning. And see, for a guy like Harbor, missing a practice is equal to a veteran like Juice Wells missing 3 or 4. Because he's still learning the ins and outs. But even Dowell Loggins earlier today said, yeah, we were missing Harbor. It's tough to do with, something about, we really missed him. And so I think there's still a plan to play him. I think that was like a lot of things health related. I'll say, I think Luke Doty looked pretty good at receiver. Quite frankly, I mean, he looked a lot better than some receivers Carolina's been forced to play in recent years. Just to be honest, he looked quick. He has good hands. He's tough. He called the ball in traffic. He didn't look scared. Watch out for that guy. I mean, I wouldn't knock Luke Doty at receiver just yet. The Muschamp staff may have actually been onto something. And if they didn't have just like one quarterback on the roster, I mean, maybe he would have done some things. But he's a good football player and all that. And look, I'm a fan of Luke's and glad to see him get success wherever it is. But I understand that. Like, where is Harbor? You kind of expect, well, this big 6'5" guy, get him out in space. You're having trouble, sustaining to get Juices out. So why would you not play him? And it's injury. It's just injuries make you behind. It's just like Marquis Anderson right now. I would, based on like part intel, part gut, part what Shane Beamer keeps saying over and over to the press, I guess Marquis probably be in the lineup this week if he hadn't been injured and hurt and behind. So it's just like that. I think as the season goes on, you'll see hopefully you'll see Nick Harbor more and more because you need him to get out there and make some plays, make himself feel good, because you don't want him to do the freshman hell situation. Most freshmen go through hell their first year, but when you're not playing, it's even worse. And that's the last thing you want to have happen to Nick Harbor because he is going to be very, very good in time. So hopefully he'll get out there. You'd think this was a get-right game this weekend. I don't know how much it's going to be, but you have to think he probably matches up pretty well against some of those Furman DBs. No offense to them, but given his size and speed, with it being a home game, maybe you could you'll take advantage of it.
JC, one of the biggest question marks we had all offseason was, what is this offense going to look like under first-year OC Dowell Loggins? There's no real way to grade or analyze his play calling from that game, right? I mean, when your offensive line is that porous, I mean, do you really take anything away from what we saw schematically? Yeah. Or, I mean,
not really. Steve Spurrier, I mean, early Spurrier era was always an adventure on the offensive line. First 6 games really, and then they tinker around with it. And he'd have to tell John Hunt to start this guy, and sometimes it's a walk on, or Justin Sorensen, the Canadian lumberjack, gets inserted in, and everything's fine all of a sudden. But back then, his offenses looked just as really Dowell's looked a little better than some of the ones Spurrier had. And I don't think Spurrier had a game where he got sacked 9 times. If I had a criticism, it's very nitpicky. It's after the onside kick. You're not running the ball. I think you get that kind of momentum play to start the second half. You go for the juggler. You've zipped down the field on 2 drives, primarily throwing the football, right? You go and you dial up your best ball play, whether that's where they did the rollout on one side, threw it back across to Xavier. That seemed to work, and that protects your line. Stuff like that, rather than trying to run plays in a row, and then getting to the point where Amari Brown has to make a clutch catch, which he did not. He dropped the ball to keep the drive going. Now, Amari should have never dropped the ball. That was a good play call, right? He was open. Should never drop that pass. But so it's hard for me. I mean, there are a lot of things. First half, Chris, I sat there and thought, well, the actual play calls have kind of kept Carolina in this. Some good creativity. Like I said, the roll to one side and throw back to another to kind of use their aggressiveness against them. Maybe you sit there and you talk about a draw play. I didn't see any draw plays. When a defense is that aggressive and when they're shooting their linebackers, can Juju squirt up through there for a big gain? Because once he gets past second level, it's green. It's wide open. Maybe not. Could you have involved the tight ends a little more, in the passing game? There's all those questions that, are fair. But, man, oh, man, I watched Nebraska, Minnesota on Thursday night. Let's just say it didn't look anything like the Huskers' mighty juggernaut of an attack there. So, the play calling was like, this guy looked like Andy Reid compared to what we saw for Nebraska and what we saw last year. So it was just one of those nights where, look, you get dominated on the line of scrimmage. I don't care who's dialing them up. It's going to be a long night, going to look bad. But I think now the challenge for Dowell Loggins is, okay, what you got up there. It's a liability until it's not. How do you scheme around it? And I think you'll probably see Spencer get out of the pocket a little more rollouts, more, bootlegs, more quick hitters, quick hitting RPOs, things like that moving forward, to maybe try to circumvent the issue. If there's a coaching issue I think it's probably the running back room. I think that I don't know why Mario Anderson Jr. and DJ Braswell weren't ready to play in this game. And this is nothing against DeCarrion. I thought DeCarrion played his butt off, but you're looking for a spark in the run game. You've got a guy that's a 10-500 meter guy. That's a freshman. Freshman should be able to play running back early. And then you got a guy that averaged 7.6 yards per carry last year, albeit at a lower level. So he's like a freshman. Why aren't those guys better? And why aren't those guys ready to go in and give you another look? Why are you limited to 2 backs? And I think we're starting to kind of – that story has a lot of chapters. I don't want to go all into it right now, but let's just say that there needs to be more options, right, at running back than just Juju and DeCarrion.
JC, to the defensive side, the unfortunate news, like you mentioned, of Mo Kaba, and you hate it for that kid after recovering all offseason, and you get back, and it's the other knee this time, and what that means for his future, who knows? We know he is out for the rest of this season. JC, I'll be honest with you, I'm nervous about the front seven. I'm nervous about the defensive front specifically. I think this team desperately needs to get Jatius Gear back, because if he's not in the lineup, listen, I like Jordan Strawn. Outside of that, how many high-level pass rushers are there? And I like Tonka Hemingway and Boogie Huntley as individual players, but the fact of the matter is this: they were members of a group last year that gave up almost 200 yards per game rushing, and then you watch the North Carolina game. Drake May's playing 7-on-7. I mean, UNC ran for about 170 yards, 4.3 yards per carry. But the more concerning part was Drake May just sitting back there all day under basically. I mean, he may have rolled out 2 or 3 times, but setting his feet, got to do something Spencer Rattler didn't do, set his feet and throw the football. How concerned are you with the defensive front? I mean, is it, we talked about the edge all offseason, defensive line all offseason. I'm not saying strides, improvements can't be made there, but now you lose Mo Kaba again. I thought Debo Williams was a bright spot. Stone Blanton, kind of a mixed bag. Grayson Pup Howard needs to play immediately. They need Bam Martin Scott back from injury, but JC, I'm nervous about the front seven, man, and specifically the defensive front.
Look, I like Stone. Stone. All right, so two things about Stone first, because you mentioned him. First of all, Stone's improved a whole lot from last year, and he's quicker, faster, all that. Number two, though, I think every offensive coordinator would like to get their athletic tight ends matched up with a middle linebacker, and North Carolina did that really well. I'm out there looking. I'm like, man, Chip Lindsey did a good job. 88 on Stone Blanton. 88's going to win it most of the time, as are most tight ends in this league, right? So, I think he's better. The defensive line. Look, we had this discussion just at the end of Inside the Gamecocks show today. Jay Bradford and Phil and I. It's time. It's time for them to start playing ball. I mean, you've got guys that have flashed like Tonka, and Tonka, he's a consistent dude. I mean, he's going to come around. Boogie Huntley is finally healthy. He needs to play like he's capable. Jordan Strawn, I know it's his first game back, but still, man, you expect more. I mean, he played much better getting to Sam Howell in the bowl game 2 years ago than he did the other night. And then, you mentioned Gear. I agree, and I also think Drew Tuiazama needs to get out there, and I think they're going to turn him loose this weekend. If not, you need to move Tonka out to the edge and Elijah Davis out on the edge and play big out there. And then, if you keep getting blocked on the interior, then maybe it's time to play Nick Barrett and TJ Sanders. I mean, there are other guys. I thought Nick Barrett on the interior when he was in the other night played pretty well. I mean, because he's big, 6'2", 330, he plugs it up. But too many bad angles and missed tackles, too, by the defense. I mean, they just didn't look I don't want to say they didn't look prepared, but too many times, I think the last 2 years, Chris, we know what kind of first half the defense is going to have early. And then it takes them, I don't know why there's not a lot of adjustments made until halftime. Well, then they adjust at halftime. They come back and tend to play pretty well. Now, it took them to the fourth quarter to get going against UNC, and then they played like the defense we expected. But, there's no excuse to give up some of the third down plays, to not affect the passer, to not have tackles for loss. I would have liked to have seen Clayton White take some more chances, but I say that. I may be wrong, though. Maybe I need to go back and look at the film, and he did blitz more, and they just couldn't get home. But talking, I talked to a veteran defensive coordinator last year about the South Carolina defense, and the one he didn't have much criticism, but one of the things he had, I mean, he's coached a long time, was Clayton needs to take more chances. He's like, because you need to get them stopped, and if they're going up and down the field, they get about the 30-yard line, you need to get them stopped somehow, and so you got to throw it out there, and so maybe and I understand you don't want Drake May to break a long one, whatever, but maybe take more chances or whatnot. But look, it's time for this D-line to play better. If not, look, Elijah Davis is a newcomer. TJ Sanders hadn't played a whole lot. Nick Barrett hadn't played a whole lot. Put those guys out there, slide the other two to edge, and let's rock and roll, because that position, that unit as a whole, ends and interior, should be a hell of a lot better than it is. And we've been sitting there talking about it for 3 years. And they're always just sort of like C+, B+. It's time to grade an A, because they're some of the freakiest, best athletes on the team. Your D-line always is in the SEC. So it's time for them to either play better or they need to play somebody else.
JC, we turn our attention to the home opener for South Carolina. The Furman Paladins come to town. And as Shane Beamer warned, and he said it's not coach speak. I mean, this is not your typical quote-unquote cupcake weekend, if you will, where you can roll your helmet out there and win by 50. Furman is a top 10 FCS team, and they went into Clemson last year. And, Clemson won that game by 23, but that was a ball game early. And Furman actually outgained the Clemson Tigers. And you look at this team led by Tyler Huff at the quarterback position. They got a fantastic running back and Dominic Roberto. 3 of their 5 O-linemen returned this year with an All-American candidate in Pearson Toomey. Then defensively, they returned their top 11 tacklers, 3 starters up front, 2 at the linebacker position, an all-conference defensive back. 38 of 44 players from their 2-deep are back from last year. So, listen, I know it's a lower level, but this is not a game you can sleep on if you're South Carolina. Your thoughts on the matchup as a whole with Furman coming to town?
Yeah, I mean, you think it'd be a get-right game. It's not. This is a really good FCS team, a veteran team full of grown men, older guys. Furman used to be a national power in the 80s. They have a long tradition. They came to Columbia, beat the Gamecocks in 82. For those of you that remember the Richard Bell era that lasted 1 year. Ironically, they built their program with three South Carolina grads, Art Baker, Dick Sheridan, and Jimmy Satterfield, all Gamecocks. None of those guys ever got the Carolina job, right? Crazy how that happens. But and then Bobby Johnson, of course, who's a Clemson grad, won big there as well when Billy Napier was his quarterback. But they fell in some hard times. But Clay Hendricks, their coach, tons of respect for this guy. He's he was in Air Force for a while under Troy Calhoun, but he's got, he's Mr. Paladin. He played there. He's a good player there. He knows what it's all about. He's sort of waking up the echoes, so to speak. Of course, App State not being in that league anymore helps. Wofford not having Mike Ayers anymore helps. Furman kind of rise back up, but they've done a tremendous job, and they're not coming to town to lose the game. They're coming to town thinking they could win. The Gamecocks are vulnerable. They force turnovers. They have great special teams. They have speed. I mean, look, we're living in a world where Duke just beat Clemson by 21 points. All right, anything can happen. I think South Carolina has to play better. I don't think the Gamecocks can line up and, play Swiss cheese offensive line. I think Furman, what they'll probably do is, they have nothing to lose, Chris. They'll just send pressure every single time. Shoot gaps, send pressure. Hey, block us. And that may lead to a long night, if Rattler can't get the ball off. Of course, it could lead to a lot of long gains if he does. So that's what happens when you gamble. But I expect them to gamble. I think their offense is good enough to give the Gamecocks fits at the skill spots. I think they run a good system. I think South Carolina fans need to show up at the ballpark Saturday night, intent on making things difficult for Furman, because Clemson game as the exception last year, maybe. How great was that environment there last year? I don't know. Who knows? But there needs to be a typical Williams-Brice environment for the home opener Saturday night to, get these guys kind of off, because I'm sure they're going to come in as a confident team, thinking that 1982 could repeat itself.
And something else, JC, to keep in mind, I mean, South Carolina could be without their best players, respectively, on each side of the ball, with Juice Wells, I think, still kind of dealing with some lingering foot issues. I mean, I know Shane, JC, this is a side note. I don't know what it means when Shane Beamer says, well, he tells me he's playing. Well, what do you say? Like, what does the doctor say? I don't care what he says, right? That's a complete we don't have to go into that. But you could yeah, go ahead.
I'll say this on Beamer. Okay, I want to give him credit. He had an NFL-style injury report for everybody this week. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't see that.
At the beginning, he went through and he said, all right, this guy's questionable. This guy's probable. This guy's out. This guy, and he listed them all, and I think the media just missed it, because later on he got a question. Oh, is this guy going to play? And they're like, I believe I said he is questionable or doubtful. Yeah, he's doubtful. So he did give us that this week. The thing is, Juice wasn't on it. He wasn't on the list, at all. No status. So I don't know, but yeah, if you're Nick and Memori on one side, Juice on the other, those are two talented guys. Now, I love Jaylon Kilgore, and I think he played his butt off and played well against North Carolina. And, you got Xavier and some other playmakers at receiver. But, yeah, man, you need those guys. You especially need them the next week. So, hopefully he does play. That's if they don't, that's another reason to kind of I don't think you should ever fear this game, but be concerned about this game because Furman is at full strength and they're going to come in and want to take advantage of your youth and your weakness. So we'll see what happens.
And that leads me to JC. Finally, your thoughts on this game, because this is a game where the focus should be South Carolina and what they do, and if they play to the best of their abilities, it's not really going to matter what Furman does. Again, I think Gamecock Nation is giving all the respect in the world to Furman. I know I am. I think they're a really high quality team. With that being said, though, South Carolina should be able to take care of business. What do you most want to see from the Gamecocks in this one specifically? We all hear the old cliche, right? A team's most improvement is from week 1 to week 2. What are you most looking forward to in the game? And if you want to lock in a score, I mean, how do you see this one playing out Saturday night at Willie B?
I think there'll be some anxious moments. Look, as bad as the O-line played and as frustrated as I think we all are about the D-line, South Carolina should control the line of scrimmage against this one. Furman's not they're not a gigantically huge team. I think they're fast, they're athletic, but they're not like I mentioned Duke the other. I mean, Duke, their team speed on defense. I don't know. I guess they just like at the end of the Cutcliffe era up there decided we're not going to recruit size, just speed on defense from now on and see what happens because they were terrible. Now they're pretty good. So, South Carolina's got an athletic advantage. I think they just need to go out there, dominate both lines of scrimmage, try to establish a run game and scratch that out a little bit and then get Rattler going and big play him to death. I think the way you keep an upset from happening is you put your foot on the gas early and you get them kind of demoralized. And then, second half, if you're up enough, both teams are kind of emptying their bench because – they got the SoCon to worry about and you got the SEC to worry about. But if it's tight at halftime, if it's nip and tuck and Carolina's turning it over, I mean, one good thing about Saturday, they didn't turn it over. But if you turn it over against these guys and you can't block them on offense and it gets ugly like that, it could be a long night. One of those either historic losses or a game like Louisiana Tech a few years ago during the Muschamp era where again, you were coming off a disappointing loss in front of a big crowd at a night game, and you needed some heroics from Jake and Brian Edwards to pull it, and Parker White to pull it out at the end. That'd be embarrassing, right? If you only beat Furman by 1, so can't have that happen. But you don't want to get in that situation if you're the Gamecocks. There's no reason for that to happen. But this is not of all the non-conference, non-Power 5 teams Beamer's faces he's been here. This team's probably, I don't want to say they're as good as that East Carolina team in 2021, but they're much better than Eastern Illinois. I think in some ways they're older and play, I guess, a better brand of football than maybe Georgia State would have in the opener last year. I think they're certainly better than Charlotte and SC State last season too. So it should be a get-right game, but on paper right now it's not. It's one you're going to have to really show up and play well to get the desired outcome. So I think Carolina will win 30. I said 34-21. Let's go ahead and give them 38-21. It won't be a score everybody looks at like Charlotte and SC State last year goes, yeah, half 100, whatever. But there'll be some getting right. And then look, I know that this show is not a member of the Mike Bobo fan club. Did you see Georgia fans reacting to him and the game? I mean, Georgia's not beautiful in Dogland either right now. So I think you just try to get better, and then you go to Athens and shoot your shot, and all that, go from there. But this is an opportunity for the Gamecocks to get better, provided they play, up to their potential and fix some of the leakiness and things of that nature.
JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks joins us every week. JC, appreciate you taking the time, my friend, and looking forward to chatting with you guys tomorrow morning.
Awesome, Chris. Looking forward to having you on, man. And let's see what happens this weekend, and certainly always enjoy it.
Absolutely, man. Same here. Appreciate you. Great stuff from JC Shurburtt, guys. It's that time, the Q&A Power Hour. I officially want to hear from you. We'll jump into a quick break on the side. Your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on this Wednesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
right, guys, we're back here on this Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Want to say thank you again to JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks for taking the time to chat with us. Really, really good stuff here on this Wednesday. Guys, we are diving into our Q&A Power Hour, taking your questions, comments, calls at 843-790-3377. Let's start first with a couple of questions we have on the voicemail line. One that I did not get to yesterday, which I apologize, and one that was left about an hour and a half or so ago. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into it.
Hey, Chris, it's Jace calling. You know, a lot of people are calling for Clayton White's job. Actually, they called for it last year a few times. But this is my thing. Ever since Clayton White's been here, he's been dealing with injuries. Not only injuries, not having enough competitive defensive players as it is. You know, let's just be real. Every year he's been here, he lost 5 to 6 key defensive players from a short room or a short pool of, you know, talented players to start with. So, you know, we giving the offensive coordinator, you know, some slack because he's losing players and what he has to pull from. Clayton White has been in the same situation. So I'm curious on your take on that. Thanks.
Jace, I appreciate the voicemail, my friend. I'll say this, that it's fair to say that the numbers defensively have taken a hit because of some of the guys who have gone out. That being said, though, I don't think any excuses were made for Marcus Satterfield, right? I mean, he lasted 2 seasons and he's gone. So, you know, I like Clayton White. I'm not on the fire Clayton White train yet, but I think this is a huge year for him. I really do. If you can't, I'll just put it to you this way, Jace. Like, if you can't stop the run any better in your 3rd year, I'd have no problem with South Carolina making a change because something isn't clicking. Like, something is not clicking at that point. And that's just tough to stomach. It really is. So I'm not on fire Clayton White yet, but it's too many times I feel like South Carolina's defense is very leaky against better competition. If you look at the defense against like ranked opponents, it is abysmal. So do with that what you will. Let's keep it rolling here.
Hey, what's up, Chris? Reflect back to last year's Georgia State game, and South Carolina, in my opinion, probably played a little worse than they played this past weekend. With that said, I've been a South Carolina Gamecock fan long enough to realize that we play some shitty first games, and it seems to always get better. And I'm pretty confident we're going to play well, and I think you'll see it. I think everyone will see it.
Okay, so that was – I don't think he ever said his name. Either way, yeah, I mean, he's right. Listen, South Carolina, for whatever reason, just gets off to these slow starts. And I don't really know why it is, guys. I don't know the rhyme or reason, but you know, the thing about a slow start is you can bounce back, and Carolina's done that. So, you know, I don't think the season's over after one game. I think there's some things that are really, really concerning after one game. But, again, we've seen Shane Beamer and company time and time again find a way to bounce back and be resilient and fix those issues. One final voicemail that we just received, then we'll get into your actual calls, your questions, all that good stuff.
I know it's not going to be a popular take, but Beamer is kind of just like Dabo. You ain't get no answers out of him. Everything is good. Everything is dandy. Just tell the truth. We made ourselves like fools after that hot dog incident. You said what you said. Keep what you said. Don't go back and start apologizing and everything. You don't need that attitude. You're too nice in that locker room. Go Cox.
Okay, so he says that Shane Beamer and Dabo are identical, and Shane Beamer, based off what I heard him just say, needs to be meaner. Needs to be not, you know, you say something, say it. Don't go back and apologize for it. And I'll say this to echo what he just said, though. Like, if you're Shane Beamer, like, dude, there's no reason. There's no reason to go back and apologize for what you said on Saturday, because guess what? The apology that you issued yesterday received 1/1000th of the attention that the original comment received. So Is it a big deal? Is it a big deal that Shane Beamer said, the freaking chain gang with the hot dogs? Like, it's not a big deal, guys. But it's one of those things where Shane Beamer needs to learn from this. He needs to learn from this. He needs to learn from everything you say can and will be used against you. And you cannot get emotional at the podium. You cannot get emotional with the media. You cannot snap at people and take shots at people and maybe tell people to find some joy or doom and gloom or what have you. Like, maybe it's best to just focus on football. Maybe. Just maybe. Anyways, let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Southern Charm Landscape and Design LLC.
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's up?
Well, I kind of wanted to go off of what the second voicemail was saying about how, things always get better.
Mhm.
I've been thinking a lot about, the game this past weekend, and coming up on this next one, we have reasons to be concerned, of course. Whatever, everybody's talked about it. No need to go back over it. But I think about the 2014 Ohio State Buckeyes and how they lost to Virginia Tech. I believe it was by like 2 touchdowns. Unranked Virginia Tech, not a very good team. I think they ended up going like 7-5. Ohio State went on the rest of that season, going to like 11-1, I think, won a championship. So just to kind of, I don't really know, but bring some light to the situation. Like, it will get better. It can get better, and it most likely will get better.
And I would agree. I mean, listen, it's you didn't pay attention to what happened after the Florida game last year if you think that it won't get better or that it can get better at least, right? I mean, I agree with you. I think South Carolina has some major issues that I think are concerning. Like, part of what made the UNC game so disappointing, like, it wasn't the fact that I think South Carolina won't improve from week 1 to week 13. One of the things, at least for me personally, that made it so disappointing was that, I questioned time and time again over the course of the offseason, like, why didn't you go pick up any Power 5 transfer offensive linemen? Why didn't you go identify and go land a running back? Like, and it was those issues that we had concerns about that really were at the forefront of your problems against UNC. And so it made it even worse. That being said, man, like you mentioned, this team will bounce back. They'll fight back. They'll improve. I fully expect that to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, culture's definitely better than what it was a few years ago. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the only positive we have to look at, then, that's a positive thing. And, I've been a Gamecock fan for a while. So, I look at some of these fans who just all of a sudden turn saying, fire Shane Beamer, fire Dowell Logan. I mean, Dowell Logan didn't even have his hand. You gave him one game with a crappy offensive line, you barely get a playoff. So, I don't know. We've talked about issues all week long. I mean, the only thing we can do is go into this next game, positive attitude, give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was just an off game. Who knows? But, even if we go 6-6, even if we go 4-8, Cox by 90.
Indeed, my friend. It's always Beamer ball to the moon, no matter what.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Man. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for the call. Great stuff. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Our guy Aaron just tried to call in. Aaron, if you want to give us a call back, you are more than welcome to do so. Bruin Nation says fire Tanner. I hear you. How about this? You guys want to hear this from Yoda? Let's see. Yoda says, let's see. All these comments are like separated here. Yoda says, just own it. Move on. No need to get snappy with everyone else for calling a spade a spade. But he turned around and pouted with the take your shot here, like fans can't be disappointed. Anyways, let's jump to the phone lines here.
call from
Dalton.
to accept.
Dalton, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing okay. It could be a little bit better. Tested positive for COVID last
Whoa!
night. Stuck at home.
Dang. Hey, I hope you feel better, man. I hate to hear that.
I mean, the symptoms aren't bad. It just feels like a normal cold, but I will not be able to go to the game this weekend. So most likely my first game back at Willie B is going to be against Mississippi State. So
I'm sorry to hear that, my friend.
But yeah, I just wanted to call in and sort of expound on the whole like complaining or criticism of Shane Beamer at the press conference. And I mean, really at this point, my whole mentality on anything Shane Beamer says in a presser is honestly, who gives a fuck? Because, you know, yeah, Barstool and you know, like other fans on the internet are going to make fun of him for talking about the chain gang eating hot dogs, but I mean, they were legitimately eating hot dogs, and it was a valid complaint. And I'm not going to sit here and say, like, you know, the context of the situation wasn't, you know, a bad look, because obviously the chain gang was not the reason why we lost the game. But Shane Beamer is going to wear his emotions on his sleeve, and he's not going to, you know, turn it down at a press conference after a horrible loss like that, you know?
Well, I mean, to your point, man, listen, we do this song and dance every year, and the bottom line is this, that when things are going well and you're winning games, the presser is awesome and everything Shane Beamer has to say is great. And when things aren't going well, there's nothing Shane Beamer can say in a presser that's going to make anybody feel any better. I mean, I was saying this last year, like Shane Beamer's going to say nothing that is going to fix the effects of losing. Like, the only thing that fixes the effects of losing is winning. You know what I mean? So, to be fair, like, I would agree with you, Dalton. I mean, it's selfishly, from my vantage point, I'll say this: it makes great content, because people really do hang on every single word that Shane Beamer has to say. The only thing I would say is that, you know, again, Shane Beamer, you know, learning that everything you say is under a microscope, and that it can and will be used against you, and that, you know, it's just knowing that you have that sort of power. You know what I mean? Like, knowing you have that sort of power and trying to keep the emotions in check as much as possible. That'd be my only thing. That'd be my only thing.
At the same time, even when he doesn't, you know, say something that's like goes viral on social media, people will clip, you know, what he does on the sideline during the game. Tennessee fans were complaining about his quote unquote antics last year when they got their ass kicked. I mean, it just is what it is. Shane Beamer is an emotional guy. He's a guy who, you know, is going to stand up for his players, and he's going to let you know what he thinks after a win, after a loss. You know, I think it's one of the qualities that sort of helps with his brand and style of coaching, right? I mean, and it's not like he's the only one that does it. Jimbo Fisher literally held an entire press conference to talk shit about Nick Saban and rumors about him, like, buying a recruiting class. You know, I could sit here and say, who gives a fuck if people think you bought the recruiting class? Why do you have to, you know, hold a press conference? But at the end of the day, if he's winning games, it doesn't really matter. It's the losing that people don't like. They're just using the press conference to criticize him. And obviously, you know, no matter what, when you have negative 2 yards rushing, opposing fans are going to take whatever they can to take shots at you.
Indeed. I mean, listen, I would tell Shane Beamer and every single other head coach out there, this ain't a Shane Beamer thing. This is just a every coach thing. Like, do yourself a favor and ignore social media. Do yourself a favor and ignore message boards. That's the only, I would say there's just no point. There's no point in trying to fight that battle and making it so obvious that, you know, the whole, like, take your shots at them while you can. Like, I know you have your guys back. You don't really even have to tell me that, but it's like, after a 9-sack, negative 2-yard rushing performance. But again, like you mentioned, Dalton, the only reason we're reading into it that much is because of the way that the game played out on Saturday. So,
Well,
you go win. Yeah, you go win, and we're not paying any attention to it, really, to be honest. So
at the same time, it's like you can't just go out there at a press conference and say, my players suck. We did a terrible job, roster management. I should have brought in better players, because at this point, the players you have are the players you have. You either have to, coach the players up and make them get better, or you just have to scheme around the bad players,
Indeed. I mean, listen,
Fans
you're right.
would love
You're
it
right.
But I mean, it doesn't help. It's not going to help if he comes out there and says, "Oh, the players suck. I didn't recruit as well as I should have." Yada yada yada. Like, he kind of had to say something that would indicate that he believes in his guys and they're going to get better, right?
Right. Indeed. Like you mentioned, Dalton, I mean, we're spending a lot of time talking about a press conference, whereas if South Carolina won, I don't think I don't know that we care quite as much, do we? It's just like, it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my 2 cents. I think it's mainly just the frustration from the loss, specifically from the South Carolina fan base side.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you mentioned, nothing Shane Beamer is going to say at a press conference is going to make up for the loss. The only thing that's going to make up for the loss is getting more, wins.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
I've just seen a lot of that flying around about, criticisms of Shane Beamer specifically for that. And I just think it's a bullshit criticism, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I have not paid it much mind, to be honest with you, because I do agree with you. I mean, it's we all kind of pick and choose, fans, rival fans, whatever. We all kind of pick and choose what we use to slander our rival, whether it's makes sense or it doesn't, so that Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, et cetera, fans are going to run with this chain gang thing. But I like many things that happened during the season, Dalton, I think literally this time next week it'll be long forgotten, and we'll be talking about other things that actually matter, thankfully. So,
but yeah, that's all I got for you. Thanks for taking my call,
Dalton. You're the man. I appreciate it. Great stuff from Dalton. Somebody texts in. Tristan Mole says, "I wish I had 2 more hands so I could give our offensive line 4 thumbs down." Jeff Gullidge says, "Guys, don't be surprised Saturday if the score is South Carolina 21, Furman 17. That's the score that I'm going with. 21-17. Dude, if South Carolina beats Furman 21-17, good Lord.
Call from.
Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Dave Garrett.
Dave, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Nothing much, man. Hope you're doing well. Like to first say, hope Dalton feels better. I'm tired of the chain gang shit though, because the chain gang wouldn't have had a damn thing to do with the kickoff. The only thing they would have delayed was the first possession after the kickoff, because if there's any dispute on an onside kick, is video reviewed to make sure the ball went 10 yards. Chain gang ain't had shit to do with that. I do think that we might not see it this game, but before the Georgia game, I think there'll be personnel changes. I don't think you can go a whole lot off of this coming game, because I think they'll be experimenting. But Furman is a better team than some of the people I've heard talking give them credit for. Anyway, they got to tighten their ass up. It's not good for merch putting the performance on like that. But I hope you have a good day, my friend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Dave, you're the man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the call. Hey, listen, he makes a good point about the chain gang. Again, I don't have much interest. I mean, it's just one of those. It's one of those things at the storyline when you lose. Like, here's the thing: when South Carolina wins, everything Shane Beamer says in the postgame is an electric factory, and we love it. We eat it up. And then everything he says after a loss is picked apart. It's picked apart to death. And you know what? When you're in that position, when you're the head football coach of an SEC team, that's kind of where you are. Like, do you hear any other fan bases, or do you hear anything about any other coaches speaking to the press about after a win, loss, whatever? Like, no, because it's one of those things that, like, unless you're just like, most people, guys, aren't even watching the press conferences. Like, unless you're a diehard fan of that team, you're not, right?
Call from
So,
Mac Martin.
Mac Martin, what's going on, man? How are you?
How's it going, man?
I'm doing.
I just wanted to point something out. You know, you may have covered this already. I'm just now getting into the show, but the offensive line, I'm not saying they're elite or even good because it's only been one game, but maybe North Carolina's defensive line is just that good. They're a veteran defensive line. They may do this to almost every team they play throughout the season, maybe not 9 sacks, but it might not, like this O-line, I think will improve, and it may not be as bad as it seems. That could be a top 2 or 3 defensive line that South Carolina will face all year, including North Carolina and Georgia have decent defensive lines, but this may be as good as them or even better from what we've seen so far. It has just been one game, though. What do you think about that?
Well, and I'll tell you this, I think definitely when you look at the Fox kid, they added some of the other pieces. Like I think their D-line is definitely better than what it was last year. I just, how much of a jump could they have made? I think you're going to have a really hard time convincing people that, like, North Carolina is better. North Carolina's defensive line is better than Clemson's defensive line, Tennessee's defensive line, Missouri's defensive line, obviously Georgia, Texas A&M's defensive line. Like, I don't know where they'd rank in the SEC necessarily. And you might be right. Like, we're not going to know that until, we get at minimum halfway through the season or final couple of games where, we have a full body of work. I know you would agree with this, that I don't care if you're playing the freaking Georgia Bulldogs D-line, like 9 sacks and 11 rushing yards or whatever, 16 tackles. It can't happen, right? It doesn't matter who you're playing.
Yeah.
But, I hope you're right. I hope North Carolina has the best D-line in college football, because then it'll feel, it won't hurt as much. But, yeah, they were so atrocious last year on the defensive front. And so I know they added some pieces, don't get me wrong, but how much of a jump did they make from last year to this year? Hopefully it's a really big one. We just won't really know that, I guess, until, we get later down the road. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just something, that, the D-line they looked big out there. And, they were a veteran group. Last year they were not very good, but they added some pieces. They just looked a whole lot different. Now they may not be as good as they, throughout the season, but it is just the first week. So I guess we'll figure it out. That was just one thing, it may not be as bad as it seems, but only time will tell.
Only time will tell, man. You were absolutely right.
Yep. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Anytime. Thank you. Great stuff. I would say this, guys. UNC could be much better on the defensive front. There's no question. But to insinuate that they are some elite defensive line and they'd be one of the best in the SEC, like I don't is it really, we spent the weeks leading to the game talking about how terrible UNC was defensively, and now they're great.
Awesome.
Let's jump into the lines here.
To accept.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Chris. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
Oh, not too much, man. Hey, who do you think's more disappointed right now, the Carolina fan base or the Clemson fan base?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's tough to say. I will go with I'll probably go the Clemson fan base, just because, like, I think I think they're having to come to grips with the fact that, like, their quote unquote dynasty under Dabo has really, like, ended. Their shots at a national title this year are basically done 1 week into the season. South Carolina can still have a good year. It's wildly disappointing the way it started, but they can still have a good year. So, but here's the thing, like, just because it would make more sense for this fan base to be more disappointed than the other fan base, it doesn't mean that's how it works out. So I think both are licking their wounds this week and are hurting this week, no doubt.
Yeah, I think Beamer's realizing real quick that the honeymoon period is over, and I think if we can learn from anything from the other guy over at Clemson, we all love Beamer to death, and we know that he's proven all the haters wrong. He's done things the right way, but he's got to realize that, man, you got to be willing to put your ego aside. You cannot live in the past in order to keep winning in this league, or unfortunately, you're going to start to lose. You're going to lose the fan base. And I know he's done it this far. He's won at a great level. He's done things maybe out of the box, and he realizes that. But he's got to realize too that you got to do the little things on the field too. When something as obvious as fixing your offensive line, finding a running back, you have to do it. You can't allow pride to get in the way of that, or you're going to get yourself beat.
Indeed. I mean, listen, to your point, the honeymoon phase is, especially if you start losing, it ends very quickly. You know what I mean? So, and that's why when people ask me over the course of the offseason or at any point about Shane Beamer, and I mean, Beamer ball to the moon. Like I wouldn't put Beamer's name on merch if I thought that he wasn't very good. So I like Shane Beamer a lot, but the reality is this: the warm and fuzzy feelings, and like no coach is immune to the effects of losing, and losing trumps all in the sense of, your approval rating with the fan base. And I mean, if you go, if you end up going 5-7 or 6-6 this year, people are going to, get restless, believe it or not. It's going to happen, man. It's big time college football. Coaches aren't getting 5, 6, 7 years to turn around programs. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not even saying that's going to happen, but to your point, it's just, it's a win now mentality, man. And especially when you look across college football and there are coaches that are showing up to schools and they're winning big early, you know what I mean? And the transfer portal makes it possible. So, yeah, the honeymoon phase and all that, those warm and fuzzy feelings, it's, if you don't turn it around and have a good year, yeah, they're gone. They're gone. Absolutely.
That's all I got, man. I do appreciate it. And Beamer ball and go Cox.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the call. Guys, was reading some stats here. Get this. To add some context to what happened in week 1. North Carolina, a season ago, they had 11 sacks against Power 5 schools last season. And as you know, they had 9 in one game in the first game against South Carolina. They had 11 sacks against Power 5 schools. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. Just crazy to think about. Anyways, guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you, more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
All right, guys, we're back, and the phone lines are open. 843-790-3377. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Let's see. TaylorMade said earlier, UNC's not a great team. They gave South Carolina every chance to come back in that football game. Yoda said, Furman worries me. I hear you. Like, I see why after the way South Carolina played. Madison Duncan. Actually, let's get to the phone lines here. A lot of calls in today. I love it.
Call from
That.
What's going on, man? How are you?
What's going on, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's up?
I listen to a lot of talk shows and stuff, and I've seen a lot of people point fingers at coaches, but with year after year key injuries, have you ever pointed a finger over at Luke Day and the coaching staff over there?
I mean, yeah, it's you know, I will say I think the injury stuff has improved since Shane Beamer's gotten there, but I mean, it's, you know, it is tough. I mean, you know, Mo Kaba back-to-back years. I mean, there's a laundry list of injuries going in the Furman game. And I would say this about the Luke Day thing. I mean, by all accounts, like you have to be a well in shape team physically to finish the way they have. So that's why I really haven't brought up the name Luke Day at all. And I mean, some of it is just bad luck, right? It just is. But to your point, I mean, it seems like South Carolina every year is dealing with some debilitating injuries. And I don't know if it's bad luck. I don't know if it's something they're doing. I don't know. But it does seem like a yearly thing for whatever reason.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to hear your view on that, and you have a good one.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Great stuff as always. 843-790-3377. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much I really put on Luke Day. I mean, guys, I look at it more this way. It just shows you why depth is so important. Because injuries are going to happen. Like, it's the game of football. Guys are going to get hurt. You just keep your fingers crossed it's not any of your main dudes. But injuries are going to happen. I'll shut the phone lines here.
Peyton.
Peyton, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Good. How about yourself, Chris? What's going on, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Appreciate you. What's up?
So I left one of my positive takeaways from this weekend. I left one of those out of the phone call yesterday, and I'd like to talk about that for a minute. Dowell Loggins, man, he still remains technically unproved simply because O-line play was just all over the place, and it really wasn't. You couldn't get anything called that would be effective with such a defective line like that. But other than that, I mean, I'll say this: him and Rattler, they looked like they were on the same page. They looked like they were, both of them liked what they were seeing from the other one. It looked like they were clicking, and play calling was creative. We tried to spread the ball around some different places, but you're so limited when you give up 9 sacks and you have 11 rushing yards. You limit yourself so much with what you can do offensively when that happens up front. So I'll just say that for as bad as we played offensively, I'll say Rattler looked good, as I said yesterday, and Dowell Loggins, the play calling also looked pretty good. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the play calling was solid. I mean, it's really, really hard to, it's really hard to judge Dowell Loggins after that performance. I mean, as bad as the O-line was, man, I don't think there's a play caller in the country that could have overcame the offensive line. But, the fact of how comfortable Spencer Rattler was, I think that's definitely an encouraging sign. There's no question. I think that was absolutely an encouraging sign. And, we'll see how it plays out. Like, I'm not ready to go one way or the other and say that Loggins is a great play caller. I'm not ready to say he's a bad one. I want to see how does it shake out as the season progresses, and when the O-line protection's there, then what does the offense look like? You know what I mean? So, and I think we'll learn a lot more as we get into SEC play, and we go up against some real competition. You know what I mean? So because we're going to face defenses that are much better than North Carolina's. So, we'll see what happens. But, I think with the Spencer Rattler thing, it is encouraging, but they've got to find a way to get balance. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree, man. I guess the word that I was looking for is, like you said, solid. He looked that. I'll definitely say that there's some promise somewhere in there. And what JC said when you had him on a minute ago, just compare our offensive scheme to where we were week 1 last year, or just simply compare it to what our offense looked like Saturday night versus what, as JC put it, the powerhouse of Nebraska looked like on Saturday as well. I mean, I think we 100% took a step in the right direction offensively. I think it shows. I think it showed a lot more possibilities than what Satterfield offered a season ago. And like we've been saying all season, hell, anything is an improvement from what we had last year. But I'll say, you know, we look better than what we did last year, as JC said, and as you said. So
just got to get the offensive line rolling, man. That's it. You get that rolling, I think some things start to figure itself out.
That's it, man. That's it. And you know, hopefully we can try to get our shit together this week against Furman. Now, it's not going to be like you said, roll over or roll your helmets out and score 50 points. It's not going to be that kind of game. And this is not the same Furman team from 6 or 7 years ago. This is not Furman teams of the past. This is a team with a goal and a team that is going to walk into Williams-Brice with a chip on their shoulder, and they believe that they can win this game. And I think now is the time to this week try everybody, see what it looks like, get a bunch of different looks, and try as much as you possibly can in preparation for this game, just to see what works. And I'll say this: I was pretty disappointed in that I didn't hear a lot of our talented freshmen names on offense last week, and it all goes back to offensive line. You can't get shit done if you can't even set your feet and throw. So I'll say I'm looking for Omega Blake again this weekend. You said they had one all conference DB on Furman.
Yeah, they got an all conference cornerback, but yeah, their secondary struggled last year. They were 116th, I think, in pass defense at their level. They were 16th, kind of the opposite of South Carolina. They were 16th in stopping the run and like 115th or 120th in pass defense. So there should be some opportunities for some big plays downfield.
Yeah, for sure. But what I'm hoping is happening is occurring at practice this week is as many different looks as anything that might have a percentage chance of working. Let's see it. Let's
right.
Say it like what JC said. Move guys around at O line. Move guys around at D line. Take some guys that usually work inside. Let's take them outside. Let's just see how it looks. Because whatever game plan we went into Saturday with did not work on either side of the line of scrimmage. Defensively, we don't get one sack. I mean, we had maybe one or two pressures, like we said. I mean, we made Sam Howell, or not Sam Howell, Drake May. We made him roll out a handful of times, but never even got close to him. So we got to improve the scheme defensively, and it goes without saying, offensive line needs to improve this week. But I think that's going to come with trying guys at different positions, moving Nick Gargiulo to center. I think that's going to be. I think the way he carries himself, and especially the way that he played this past weekend, all things considered, I think he had a solid game. But I think you need your cornerstone guy to be the one calling the shots, and you need him at center, basically. And I think some freshmen need to be rolled in. I think Nick Harbor has got to touch the ball more than Luke Doty. I do not care what happens. I don't care if Doty's open 10 out of his 15 routes a game that he gets. Nick Harbor has got to touch the ball more than Luke Doty does at the receiver position. I just think that's ass backwards, man. You got one of the most talented freshmen, one of the most physically gifted freshmen that college football has ever seen, and you are not targeting him, but targeting Luke Doty's a fifth-year guy, right? Or is it fourth year?
I think fourth year. He got here in 20, 21, 22, and then 23. So, yeah, fourth year.
So, I mean, you got to – if we want him to acclimate and get used to the college football level, you got to give him the ball and just see where he fares at least. But, yeah, I think I'm looking to see some talent this this Saturday. And Dontavius Braswell as well, man. I was really expecting to hear his name against UNC, but yeah, I mean, he didn't get a touch, did he?
He did not
Mario
see.
Anderson,
He did not. Neither one of them see the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that for the talent that we do have in the running back stable, I think we should have seen more of it. We should have seen different guys get different touches. I'm okay with Dak Joyner being RB1. I'm all right with that. I'm okay with him getting 10 to 15 plus touches a game. I'm all right with that. But if you want your guys to become acclimated to the D1 level, with Dontavius Braswell being a true freshman and Mario Anderson being a D2 Newberry transfer, if you want him to get acclimated, you got to give him a chance. And I'm looking for a bunch of different guys to get touches this week, and I think that's going to be a big key for us building this offense and defense moving forward.
Yeah, I would expect to see a lot of new faces or a lot of different faces on the field on Saturday night for sure. Peyton, I appreciate the call, man. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
Absolutely, Chris. I'll holler back at you more this week, and go Cox. Thanks for his up show, man. I appreciate it. Thanks,
Peyton,
Chris.
you're the man. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Great stuff from Peyton. Guys, phone lines are open. 843-790-3377. Let's get into some other comments here. Let's see. Our guy, Spur Your Enthusiasm. He's tired of the pessimism. He said, there's a difference in not having garnet-covered glasses and just being down right path and misty. His team is going to make a bowl game, and think anything otherwise is ridiculous. Talking about Shane Beamer in South Carolina. Nick says, I just have this feeling our offense will explode this weekend after coming out of that game. It does seem that when you're the most down and out, your team rises to the occasion. We've seen South Carolina do that as well. Brian Dean says, South Carolina 38, Furman 17. Guys, what did you think, by the way, about J.C. Shurburtt? He locked in his pick 38-21. What did y'all think about that? 38-21. Justin Bryant, what's up, Chris? Were you a little annoyed with Beamer's comments yesterday? I was not at all. No. I mean, listen, Beamer's a fiery, passionate guy. He defends his players. He defends his team. It did not annoy me in the slightest. So, let's see. Jacob E says, people got to slow down on Nick Harbor. Dude's never played a wide receiver at any level. It's going to take some time for him to be adjusted to a wide receiver. Can he break off a route yet? We'll see. We will see. I mean, the biggest thing for Nick Harbor, he's got to get healthy, like JC was just saying. So I don't think it's a guarantee that he's healthy this weekend either. Rumination, how do we know that he's great? He's fast. Been hearing since he was in high school. He had trouble on routes. Kid played DN better in high school. He needs time. Plus, he was coming off an injury. Yeah, I mean, it's why I said, Rumination, I thought it'd be about mid-season before we really, saw a lot of him. Coach Ford says, when did we realize our O-line was that bad? Beamer said he thought both lines of scrimmage looking good. Maybe the case with our O-line versus our own D-line. Jeff Gullich, find your playmakers this weekend, period. Madison Duncan did notice Rattler was poised in the pocket as it was collapsing around him. His feet were never able to get solidly planted. Need that protection, and Rattler can light it up. Jeff Gullich, Nick is a 5-star. You get that 5th star because you should be able to play right away. I mean, I hear you. I hear you, man. I hear you. Let's see. Jacob E says, -2 rushing yards. I just don't see how you could scheme around that. At least last year, the O-line was veteran and experienced at the SEC level, but not these boys. Here, let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Justin, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Doing good, Chris. How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
Hey, Chris, how you feel about Duke being Clemson Monday night?
How do I feel about Duke beating Clemson? It was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, it didn't, it didn't mend all the wounds of Saturday night's loss to UNC, but it was, it made it better. So, yeah, I was happy to see it as was all of Gamecock Nation for sure.
Oh yeah, me too, Chris. I was proof for Monday night because I was really kind of down Monday. I gotta say, I gotta get my spirit back up, Chris. It was not easy.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. It's the best thing that can happen is this Furman game comes quickly and South Carolina gets one in the win column.
Yeah, hey Chris, before I go, man, let me ask you about Luke Day, quick, man. Is Luke Day to that Jeff Dillman?
Is he the next Jeff Dillman? I don't know, man. I think Luke Day is much better than that. I think that there's been some frustrating injuries for sure, but dude, if you think there's as many injuries now as there was in the Muschamp era, how quickly you have forgotten what the Muschamp era was like, because that was absurd. So, no, I think Luke Day is a good strength and conditioning coach. I'm not worried about Luke Day. No.
Yeah, me neither, Chris. But hey, Chris, on the Muschamp, yeah, that was a mess. 2019, man. That's a game you should have won.
I mean, it's listen, UNC was the favorite. I mean, maybe we're not giving UNC enough credit, but yeah, it was a game that I came in, knew it was 50-50. It did not surprise me that North Carolina won the football game, but how it happened was stunning. It was stunning to me. So, that's what was tough. That's what was tough. So, you got to bounce back. Got to bounce back in a big way.
Yeah, and Chris, back in 2017, and Chris, I mean, when I watched the video, man, you was like me. I was frustrated, man, because how the hell did you so fuck you ahead? Because that still plays today, right, Chris?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's 2019's 2019, and we're in 2023. But yeah, I mean, I was frustrated. I called for Muschamp's job, so I was pretty frustrated after that game.
Yeah, I was too, Chris. But that was a tough time back then,
Yeah. I mean, it was. Yeah, it was for sure. So, yeah. I mean, it's you got to find a way to bounce back. Like I said, Justin, that's the biggest thing this weekend.
Yeah, man. And Chris, if I go, man, Shabil, he knows. And Chris, he's got to step up, man, because this cannot happen no more like this again. Chris.
No, yeah, I mean, I'd agree. It's got to get fixed again. Like I said, it's got to get fixed. So.
Because because they got to, because hey, Chris, I hate to go through another coach change.
Well, that's Justin. We're not even remotely close to that. So we're. It was one game. Season's not over to be talking about Beamer and his job status. I mean, maybe it just goes to show how much stock people put in that UNC game. And it just, yeah, if you're talking about Beamer's job right now, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're off your rocker. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, because I like Shabil, man. I always say this for a long time, man. But man, you got to step up, man.
Mm-hmm. You do. You have to indeed.
Yeah. Because are you going to the game Saturday?
I will not. We'll be covering the game in studio and then doing the post-game call-in show right after the game.
Oh, yeah, Chris. I wish you was there, man.
I hear you, man. I'm committed to the content, so I'm I won't beat any games this season. I'm looking forward to it though, man. And the post-game call-in show after UNC was a massive success, and so I'm excited to rock with it all season long. But it's actually fun watching it on TV. You see a lot more of the game, and I'm also really excited to watch all of the other SEC games, including Texas and Alabama, which happens simultaneously to South Carolina. Really pumped for it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I love going to games and everything, but I really enjoyed my time watching the game in the studio and kind of having my own food, having my own drink, having my own bathroom, not feeling like as much I was working the game day, which is kind of what I did last year. And we're still selling merch on hand. So, the bottom line, Justin, is this. There's just, I've gone down this, or I've gone over this before. There's just really, for what I do, there's no advantage for me being at the game. And that will, I'm not saying I'll never go to a game again, because I absolutely 110% will. But my first experience last weekend, again, covering the game in studio, doing the post-game call-in show was a massive success. And I'm looking forward to doing that the rest of the year.
Yeah, hey Chris, I'm happy for you, man. Hey Chris, y'all see a good spirits in the game, you know.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I'll be back at Willie B soon, no doubt. I'll be back at Willie B soon.
Yep. Hey Chris, hey, I at least I go away by games every year, but I still cover Gamecocks too, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Hey, I love doing it, Chris.
Yeah. That's what matters, man.
Yep.
That's what matters.
Hey,
Well,
Chris.
Justin, y'all have fun this weekend, man. Pull them through.
Yeah, thanks, man. Good luck to you too, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, Justin. Thanks for the call. Great stuff. As always, from Justin, guys, what do we want to do here? Somebody want to call in, keep us from taking a break? Thought we might slide one more in here. It is late, though. Robbie Davis. We'll just roll to the end of the show. We only got 8 minutes to go. Robbie Davis says, I will have my prediction ready to go tomorrow. Go Gamecocks and Beamer ball to the freaking moon. Also, go Charleston Southern Buccaneers. Beat Clemson. And I will make sure I do a little bit of extra cheering for you. Go Gamecocks. Have a great rest of your week, my friend. Aaron says the call-in show was epic. Yeah, Aaron, I'm excited to do that all year, man. I really am. It's one of those things you take a chance, right? Like I've gone to every single home game since 2019. And so, I just realized, though, last season, man, that, the whole purpose of the tailgate was to sell merchandise, and that's what we were doing. And now I have a guy that's going to sell merch for me on hand at the game. So I no longer need to do that. And as much as I love shaking hands and hanging out with people, and also, again, I've not so subtly hinted at the fact that, we're talking more SEC. I'm expanding my coverage. I need to be able to watch those games and see the college football. And, when I'm making content during the games, like being on Wi-Fi and watching the game on TV and seeing more of the game, it's a huge advantage. And also maximizing what we're doing in the Discord and watching the games in the Big Cock Club Discord, which join if you have not. I would say that week one, that game against UNC, that was a massive success. I really am excited to do that all year. I really am, guys. I'm looking forward to it. So post-game call-in show after Furman, after every single game this season, going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, 843-790-3377. We had another voicemail here. Let's go ahead and play this voicemail from Brian.
Hey, Chris, this is Brian Marquis. I called in a couple weeks ago about the North Carolina game. I don't know if you covered this on the show yet already, but this week we played Furman. Me personally, looking at the damage that got taken to our O-line during the game, I'm not going to say I'm terrified for Furman, but they're supposed to be a really good football team. They're supposed to finish – I heard that they're supposed to finish top of their conference. They're a really good football team. The head coach said this is like one of the best teams that they've had in a while. So I just wanted your thoughts on how you think that game's going to go. Do you think the offensive line is going to show any type of improvement? Do you think that the defense is going to show up a little more? Because against North Carolina, I feel like we not locked in at the times that we needed, but, showed up when it was somewhat necessary. So I just wanted your feedback back on that. Go Cox, Beaver ball to the moon.
Brian, I appreciate the call. There better be improvement. There better be. And I think there will be. I'll give my prediction on Friday, and you guys will know exactly where I stand on how I think the game will go. I think there will be improvement. I think that, we've seen this song and dance before where South Carolina plays terribly and they're never going to win a game again. And they typically find a way to do so, right? So I do think that South Carolina will find a way. I think they will improve. And what does that mean for a final score? You guys will find out what I think on Friday. But, yeah, I don't think South Carolina is going to give up 9 sacks again, if that's what you're asking me. We got a text here. Hunter Stanley says, I'm wondering what you ended up having for your game time spread this past weekend. And please don't eat that again. Haha, beat Furman, kick ass, go fight, win. Yeah, we ended up having burgers and pizza. So I guess maybe we shouldn't do that again. You're right. DJ Doremus says, I'm thinking Beamer's going to run the smallpox out of the offensive line and whip them into shape so we don't have another performance like last weekend. The footmen completely wrecked us. But, hey, there's a lot of ball left to play. I just hope we don't have a repeat of the part where the message ends. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to whip them into shape for sure. No doubt. Guys, we can take probably one or two more calls. Here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Rebecca.
Rebecca, what's going on? How are you?
I know I ain't called in a while.
You ain't called in a hot minute, Rebecca. What's up?
Nothing much, really.
That's good to hear.
At all. I just thought I'd call in. I know I didn't call. Usually I would call in but the day before the ball game, but last Friday I was in Pigeon Forge. Me and Will was in Pigeon Forge, and I didn't get to call in.
How did y'all have a good time? Y'all have fun?
Yeah, so y'all can blame it on me because I usually give the Gamecocks a good luck on winning.
You do, Rebecca. You really do.
And it was my fault for just blame it on me. The reason why we lost from North Carolina, put it that way.
Oh.
Blame it on me.
Okay.
Because
Well,
I didn't call.
Okay.
Friday.
Because you did not call, South Carolina did not win. We will blame it on you, Rebecca. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Yeah, because I went to Pigeon Forge and I was having fun.
I'm sure y'all were. I'm sure y'all were.
Believe me, I'm going to watch it. Is it going to be on TV?
So this weekend's going to be on SEC Network Plus. So you're going to have to stream it.
I know. I believe we got that on up here.
Well, you should be able to watch it then.
Yeah. Everybody can be mad at me because I didn't call in Friday. It was
all right. Fault. Well, now we understand what happened. I was sitting here worried about the offensive line. No, it was Rebecca's doing. That's why South Carolina lost the game.
I'm sorry, everybody. It was mine. Please forgive me.
Indeed.
But maybe this time, can I call in Friday?
You can, Rebecca, you can absolutely call in.
You know, it would be easier because we'll get a better win if I call in on Friday.
You can absolutely call in, Rebecca.
I want to apologize to everybody. So I'm sorry that we lost from North Carolina. It was my fault for not calling in.
Your apology, your apology is accepted, and we forgive you, Rebecca. I appreciate the call, Rebecca. It's always a pleasure to hear from you.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Talking to you.
Yeah, y'all be good.
All right, I'll talk to you on Friday.
Sounds good. Give us a call. All right, bye-bye. Rebecca. So, I mean, I guess that was the problem. Rebecca didn't call in. That's why we lost. Madison Duncan asked the question, will it be on in the Discord? Yes, Madison. We will be streaming the South Carolina Furman game in the Big Cock Club Discord. So do not worry about that. That game will be on there, and we'll be hanging out, conversating, chatting, all that good stuff. Patreon.com/Big Cock Club, or click the link in bio on our social media. You'll see that Big Cock Club link. You can join today. And again, like I mentioned, we're going to be streaming every South Carolina football game in the Big Cock Club Discord, as well as all the rest of the college ball games. A lot of great college football on Saturday. Cannot wait to watch it with you all. That being said, guys, hey, we have to 3 o'clock. Great show today, guys. Again, cannot say thank you enough. Really good stuff. Y'all be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so that you get notifications when we go live, when we drop new video content. Also, be sure to click the subscribe button on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out there. The podcast drop daily, 5 p.m. Eastern. Guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.